Perfect. We are live. Welcome to everybody who are joining from YouTube, Twitch, and X. Today's the first day I'm actually streaming on Twitch as well. Doubt anybody's gonna join because I don't have any track record on Twitch, but we'll find out. Welcome to whomever's here. We have Ant joining from TikTok. The business is in the house. Welcome, brother. Good to see you. One of the first ones today, brother. I'm assuming this is a better time for you, huh?
Yeah, I'll be able to be on I just wanted to pop in and say hey, but I'll be able to hop on for a little bit longer in a minute. I just wanted to show my support to the live.
I appreciate you, brother. I don't know if you were here yesterday when I was saying it, but I was thanking deeply to you and Cal for always being here and supporting and helping with the comments and everything. Couldn't have done it without you, I think. So thank you so much for always being here.
Yes, sir.
And Cal is in the house, per usual. We'll invite him if he feels like coming on. All right, so...
Yeah, I didn't get a chance to ask Cal yesterday. I think he was talking about doing the laser experiment a couple of days ago. Did he ever mention that?
He did tell me that. I don't know, specifically 2 days ago. Well, he can tell us right now. How you doing, Cal? What's up, not of Werland? How are you? Good to see you.
Hey, Cal, did you ever take that vacation you and I were speaking about?
Yeah, sure did. I did see it a couple days ago, and it was more concrete this time. So,
interesting.
I did see it before, but it wasn't as concrete. But now I know for sure.
Oh wow, I didn't even know that. Well, that's
add him to the list of over 1,000 people. Then
yeah, it's you make him sound so not special, man. Come on. you
let's go. I saw it.
So to all the newcomers, got it. Sorry, I'm dyslexic, so somebody's handle is awesome and I misread it, but I assure you it's no disrespect. I have severe dyslexia, and in addition to that, I'm trying to pay attention to something else at the same time, but not of this world. That makes much more sense. With a southern accent, I would assume. So welcome. It's like whirlwind, which is a very difficult thing to say when American English is not your first language. So to all the newcomers, welcome. Welcome to Simulation Talk 52. This channel mostly revolves around the simulation hypothesis. My name is Danny, and I'm claiming to have found proof that we live in a simulation. We're talking about not a philosophical proposition, but an actual proof. We're here meeting on the daily to discuss the experiment, the discovery, but science, philosophy, religion, spirituality, whatever comes to mind. Sometimes we drift into far-end conversations about all kinds of things. So feel free to join, ask questions, and even come on and talk if you feel like you have something of value to say. We are here every single day. To all the newcomers who are not familiar, my tongue is going to wake up in a moment. What I discovered a few years ago is that if you project a 650 diffracted laser on the surface and you ingest a molecule that I cannot name on a live chat, you will see code running in surfaces. The code is extremely concrete. This observation has now been replicated over 1,000 times worldwide. I am in contact with some of the leading researchers in the field. I always mention, it does not mean that all of them agree with me, but what I am proposing is a simple experiment that anybody can run. So we're here to discuss that and other very fascinating topics on the daily. So hopefully you're here with us and will stay. And you can also check out my YouTube channel, Dan Go Thoughts, in which I'm talking about all of these things more in length. All of the TikTok videos are fun, but if you want a bigger breadth of the subject, then you might want to check out YouTube. Once again, it's Dan Go Thoughts, 3 words, DANGO Thoughts. Okay, so first of all, Cal, and then we're gonna start checking who from the audience also wants to join. Tell us a little bit about it, because I know that in the beginning you had some issues with seeing the code. And anybody who's just joining, if you have any questions about what we're talking about, feel free to ask. The second we have a period in between people talking, I will always fill you in about exactly what's going on. Australia next. Okay. Wait, Anna, is that you? I can't really recognize from the picture. If it is, welcome. If not, welcome to another Australian. So go ahead, brother. Tell us a little bit, because I know you tried it before, you didn't really see it, and then, as I told you, I don't really know what changes for people when they do see it, so I would love to know if you have any insights on that, and also, what is your impression? How do you feel?
It was immediate. I think it's because when I saw it before the first time, it wasn't as concrete, like I said, but this time it definitely was. And I saw two almost layers of code. One was seemingly horizontal, and then behind that, I could see like round objects with the codes spinning or swirling
The buckyballs, yeah.
behind that layer. But it was almost immediate. I just looked at it, and like you said, it's like doing the magic eye thing. I just immediately saw it.
That's amazing. How do you feel? Is there anything, because I noticed that I have a general consensus of how most people feel. I don't want to inject that into your brain. So first, please tell me how do you feel?
Even though I expected it, right? Because I've been listening to you talk about it, it was still shocking to really see it. It almost felt like I was in third person seeing it, if that makes sense.
It makes perfect sense. It's what I always refer to, what Terence McKenna used to say. You could believe it only if it wasn't happening to you. And I obviously was talking about the spirit molecule experience itself, but I feel like this has like a different rank to it. Like you can't believe what you're seeing. Would that be a closer presentation, or am I putting words in your mouth?
No, that's exactly it. When I saw it, I think I did look away. I was like, whoa, and I looked away, and then I looked back, but it was just this. Yeah, the best way I can describe it, just felt like I was in third person for a second, and it was shocking how concrete it was.
Yeah. Okay.
It's like it's actually there. You know?
Yeah. You don't exactly. Yeah. It's even people that are totally on board. They always have this response in which they're like, "Wait, what? No, I didn't expect to actually see it. That's crazy." And I've got this response very often from people. So I'm glad. Yeah, I'm glad that you saw it. So now we can actually talk about it more in depth. And so now, actually, in the context of what Matthew was asking yesterday, you are also a data scientist, right? A software engineer, data scientist, and all the questions he was asking about yesterday about analysis, which I totally understand where he's coming from. But now, after seeing it, I know you already had some breakdown of what you were saying, and now I understand that it was already after you saw it, right? But what is that thing that is different from, if you have a way to verbalize this? What do you think? Where do you think, when the question is what else can we test it with in order to prove it, what does it miss? To me personally, it feels like it kind of misses the point. I totally get it. Like science has to put its hands on it in a way that is more concrete. I'm all on board. But from a personal perspective, it feels to me like if after you see it, it's so clear to you that the question, how can we prove it's actually real, kind of misses the point. Do you share that intuition? And if so, like how would you talk about it from the perspective of a data scientist?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I have to look at it more. Okay. Like I said, I was kind of shocked when I saw it, even though I knew.
Yeah.
I feel like I need to spend more time with it, but I understand why it's so hard to try and figure out a way to prove it. It's just, there's so much going on, and it's fast. And I don't know. I need more time.
Sure. No, and I wasn't trying to put you in the corner, brother. First of all, I'm excited you saw it. Second of all, Yeah, I mean, people fall into three main categories. One of them is super rare, which is what I mentioned. There was only two people in the entire time that had this experience where they're like kind of like they refuse to like kind of like accept the thing, which we can talk about. I think it's important too. And then the other two is that, and the biggest one is that people could just kind of feel like blown away or elated. And then there's one percentage of the population is kind of like the feeling that they get that they're like, "Ooh, this is like a secret we're not supposed to know," that kind of thing. Kind of does some work on them, but that's still a small percentage, but it still exists. So I think it's also important to mention. Let's wait a second. Thank you for the gift, Josh. I appreciate you. You're an amazing man. I've been experimenting with the molecule for a couple of years in more ways than mainstream media talks about, like how electronic displays seem to change their UI under mild dose. That is actually a really interesting point, Sean. I don't know if anybody here is super experienced with the molecule. I would only recommend to try this if you are, and not in any other under any other circumstance. If you already have a pretty well-established relationship with the molecule, I would say you can start experimenting with, doing it while you may be looking at the screen, things like that. And it does change the way the digital devices look and even feel in any given moment. So thank you for that point, Sean. Let's see who's, actually Matthew is in the house, so let's bring him on real quick. Business jumped on. Hey, Mandelovski, it's good to see you. Hey, babe. Well, why would you add a fuel to the fire? Wait, I don't know what this is referring to. How are you, Matthew? How you doing, brother?
Assalamu alaikum. Good evening, good day.
Good day, good day. I saw, by the way, just a quick housekeeping thing. I saw your emails. Today was pretty slammed for me, but I'll definitely address them first thing tomorrow morning, hopefully.
Yeah, no worries.
Yep.
Just to summarize what you have, I found our talk last night very great. So great that after I got off the stream, like this has been happening each night. I need to be careful. I get off stream and then I get rushed with all the good ideas. So I get to my notebook and start taking notes, drawing diagrams, making checklists. And then I was like, you know what? I'm going to write the paper tonight. So I started writing a few white papers to send you.
Okay.
I'm an information scientist as well, and one of my core competencies is in AI development. So I build my own variations of the large language models, right? Like I can do my own fine tunings. So I use those to help quickly broaden my knowledge in certain areas and then bring those into product ideas. So I spent some time and I landed on like 2 interesting designs that might be cool to just high level. And then I actually took the AI and gave it a chance to like take its own stab at it. But if I take a step back for those who didn't see us yesterday, I was focusing on how to, or trying to brainstorm ideas as to how we could make the testing harness more flexible, add analysis capabilities, various paradoxical setups. And the two quick ones I just wanted to mention, you can read the paper along with the specifications and the configurations for the test. The early sort of feedback loop cycle on the AI I ran, because I ran a job overnight to test its knowledge to make sure that the things were accurate. And some of the designs actually look quite interesting. So the first one was the hypervision goggles and glasses, where there's a design that I sent you where we can take lasers, attaching it to a goggle headset and using two-way mirrors and a certain mirror configuration that I was working with the AI on, that will be able to project 3D diffraction cubes filled with different, you can use the mobile app, I describe it in the paper, but essentially it's a goggle set that will create a floating 4D different diffraction geometric patterns, which we'll have in the mobile app, and will allow you, one of the things that is interesting and came to me after the stream last night is maybe this has, what you're looking at needs to be layered over some sort of geometric surface to see something more to it. I don't know, this was just one thing I was thinking. Again, I'm still working on my first experiment. But this first design would allow you to create your own, basically, it's a new approach to augmented reality and allows you to look right through the laser and see sort of floating 3D holographic diffraction patterns at the frequencies you specified in your
Yeah,
instruction manual.
in the protocols, right?
So that was number one, but the easier one might be number two, which I actually found interesting. I landed on the crystal ball idea. So imagine like a crystal ball that you have a structure underneath the crystal ball and the lasers coming up in it and projecting into. So you're looking in through a two-way mirror into a crystal ball or a sphere, and allows you to align different, basically change the focus, viewing angles of the diffraction patterns, and creates like an additional space to create more geometries in. So the crystal ball might be an interesting one, but take your time and read it. So I was hoping to see what you might think in terms of feasibility, as my main objective is to find a way to bring this off of a 2D surface and cast it over different things. I think the other interesting idea I would love to see, that if we were able to achieve the goggle or glasses method, the thing I'm thinking is if you would put these glasses on and then take this floating 3D cube and place it over an object on the table, what effect would that have? What we would see, and back to your point about being able to test magnetic fields and things in range of these type of floating diffraction patterns. So this is at a high level. And then the AI came up with other ones like sort of like planetary dome type alignments that should maintain the clarity. Like, I really wanted to highlight the fact that I realized kind of halfway through our conversation last night that the big challenge is going to be maintaining sort of diffraction integrity as we try to scale it up to broader test harnesses. So that's sort of the update on my work today.
I appreciate it, man. Listen, this is so much that you've done in one day. It's crazy. And also, it's funny because I'll send you an image that somebody contacted me a while ago. Again, I don't know if they want to be named, so for now I'm not going to name them. But basically, they sent me an AI-generated image of a design they have in mind, and it's very much along the lines of like goggles that kind of has the laser, and then they have all kinds of filters in them. And it's totally feasible. It's just a matter of a little bit of playing with the prototype. I'll send you the image via email later today.
If that ever gets legs, I would totally offer services in application development, because maybe from the experiencer standpoint, is it important for you to remain focused on study, like looking at what you're observing? Is there a lot in adjusting the laser alignment? Because what I'm thinking is if you have a mobile app in your hand and we have some buttons on it, it can help you refine the image and stay focused on kind of observing what you're experiencing and not having to worry about like your physical position or other parameters of what you're doing.
Wait, repeat that last part about not changing the
Is there any sort of like fine tuning that would be required? Like, it sounds like to me, and again, I think I really need to just get to seeing it so I can finally put some of my guessing at work and get down to like more feasible studies. I was just wondering if, in terms of clarity and focus, would there be, let's save it till after you get a chance to read the paper and we can kind of like discuss features and functions. I guess the most productive thing would be to kind of express any additional challenges or like problems that you feel are hindering progress. And those are kind of the things I can try to look into, because I am kind of retired and I have nothing else to do. I'm basically just skateboarding and testing my negativity theory and writing like
That's
doing
amazing.
a lot of writing for the negativity theory side. So I became so intrigued and we kind of hit it off. So I've got plenty of free time to kind of dedicate some time to this thing because I think frankly it's amazing and I would love to contribute towards something like that. And so I'll continue to try to help in the best ways I can. And the best ways I've contributed in the past is just give me the hardest problems and I can tackle it like a bull.
So first of all, I deeply appreciate it and your commitment and engagement and interest, obviously. Yeah, absolutely. I think that ultimately it's kind of hard to gauge what hinders progress because I don't even know what progress is going to look like. This is what I think the reason one of the reasons I put it out to the world is because I knew that I'm not smart enough to figure this out by myself. So I need people with high technical skills and that are in fact more capable and smarter than myself to help me figure this out. And this is exactly what we're doing now, which is incredible. One thing I can tell you is that there are a few things in the pipeline as solid ideas at this point for me. So if you would ask me a year ago, I wasn't so sure, but now I have pretty well, solid is a relative term there, but I do feel that I have a good grasp of what might work and what might not, and also because I have a feeling of how progress happens in the space. So I do think, like this is now something I'm repeating every day, so I know it sounds like a broken record, but I do think that the powerful magnetic field will yield some kind of result. I'm not sure what it might be, but then again, I wasn't even sure what we're supposed to do with the laser when I knew for a fact that the laser is somehow going to do something. And then the fact that I saw the code, I was like, oh, okay. So now the laser itself told me what the result is. And then I think that in addition for me reading the papers and kind of mulling them over and telling you what would be the proper way to proceed according to what you suggested, I do think that one of the main factors there is for you to also see it because, and again, if you for any reason feel like you're not called to, that's an important data point, and it's important that you don't if you don't feel like it. It's very important because there's an inner voice that speaks to you for a good reason, right? But ultimately it will make your life much easier because you will understand what is, like, you would just have direct experience of it, so it'll be easier for you to decide what can potentially work and what cannot, and you might have better ideas than I do because you have your field of expertise. But otherwise we're working like through translation. You see what I mean? Just to
100%.
Yeah.
So
just one thing
to me,
before.
and,
One
like,
second, brother. 1 second. Just a quick thing
Oh,
because
go ahead.
we just have a bunch of new people that just jumped in. I'm gonna reiterate it one time because people asked. This channel mostly revolves around the simulation hypothesis. My name is Danny, and I'm claiming to have found actual proof that we live in a simulation in an actual computational environment. We're meeting here on the daily to discuss the experiment, the discovery, but also science, spirituality, religion, philosophy, whatever comes to mind and feels important. And we have sometimes we have panels, sometimes we have experts, and generally we just meet up on the daily to have some fun. So that would be, if any of these subjects are interesting to you, you can also check out my YouTube channel, which is Dango Thoughts, 3 words, DANGO Thoughts. And I have all my videos there are obviously much longer than what you see on TikTok, and they talk about these things much more at length. Same goes for anybody who's watching us from Twitch or from X. Know that the YouTube channel on TikTok is just Danny Goller. So I think that all of that is a good summation of where we are. And then if you guys have any particular questions about the discovery, for example, what type of code did the laser produce? It seems, well, first of all, it seems that the laser is not producing it, but it seems to be in every surface everywhere. It doesn't matter what you project it on. And the reason we know that is because the code does not move when you move the light. In fact, when you move the light, it just looks like a flashlight that is revealing something in the dark. The code is on its own side. If anything, it resembles like you're looking through a microscope. There's a whole new world of bacteria in the case of the microscope that you see happening. It has its own spatial coordinates, its own behavior, its own regularities, and it's just there. And that's exactly what it appears like to be in the laser. But specifically, weirdly enough, it kind of looks like in the movie The Matrix. It literally looks like Japanese katakana mixed with some regular numbers from 0 to 5 and something that seems to be akin to some Hebrew letters. So it's like but all of these are just approximations. Not exactly all of these things, but kind of all of these things. And it's kind of like alien language. The code does not change no matter who you are, where you are, when you are. And even people that I told nothing, they still saw the same thing. People that have never seen the movie The Matrix have seen the same thing. People that I told other things, people that I told them other things, so on purpose, kind of throw the scent off, they still came back and said, I didn't see that thing you told me, but I did see these Japanese-looking characters. So it seems that it's just ubiquitous across, everything, and there's over 1,000 replications worldwide now. And we are now working on, which is what Matthew is basically describing, we're working on potential ways of creating perturbations in the code that so far we were not successful. We tried sound, we tried projecting it to different materials, but some experimentation with magnets, but not magnets that I think powerful enough. The next part of the experimentation will include what is called the Zeeman effect. I need to get a very powerful magnet that can produce at least a 3.3 Teslas, which usually natural magnets cannot produce. And hopefully we can create suborbitals in the light, which I believe will show us some kind of a departure from what the code appears to be on a regular basis. And if we can all agree across multiple individuals that we see the same kind of change in the code, either in behavior, content, or any other way, then you have another layer of confidence that you're looking at something actually there that is part of objective reality. So this is usually a much broader summation that I usually give at this point, but here we are. I cut you off in the middle, Matthew. What were you saying? And thank you for putting it on. Yeah, you can check codeofreality.com to get more information, including the protocol and the stuff that you need to get in order to actually make this work. Go ahead, brother. What were you saying?
No worries. I think that was a good transition. Maybe I won't stay too long today, and we can kind of dive into more things tomorrow.
Sure.
But some of the last thoughts that I maybe didn't mention, as I try to relate it to my work in information science and computer science and various information science frameworks. When I hear the stories and about when you're seeing the code, how it extends out to the foreseeable horizon. There's no bound on the backside, right? When you're seeing it.
Uh-huh.
I that gives me heartburn. Like I see those kind of things in the own computer code that I write too, and what I tried to bring out in these specifications that I'm writing is to enforce like the idea is I think we need to put a boundary around it somehow. This is what I was kind of working with, to create bounds on it, so you can counter the infinite viewpoint with containing it, and it will wrap back around in on itself, creating a new pattern. So I was hoping by creating sort of 3D projected diffraction type lasers that we would be able to create different geometric patterns, and maybe even use AI to help us generate a number of different varieties where maybe some new level of coherence would be obtained by trying different series of geometric patterns to see if, when you bound the infinite thing that you're seeing right now on the 2D surface,
Okay.
if it creates a new image when it is projected into multiple additional visual dimensions.
Interesting.
But I'm fading fast already, so I can already tell I'm probably ready for bed already.
Okay. All right, brother. By the way, Cal, do you have any words on that?
I didn't get the sense that it was bending back in to itself.
That's what I'm going to try to fight in the design of the product I'm coming with, because I think new order may arise if you can enforce boundaries. Like the thing I'm thinking about.
Wait, I'm trying to understand. I'm trying to understand technically. I'm trying to understand from a technical standpoint. I'm not sure what you mean by that. If you create a boundary for it, so I don't know. Like, so I'm not sure.
Let me describe the boundary.
Sure.
Like, when you use the laser diffraction pattern, some of the videos I've watched, you use like either one or two lasers to maybe make a crosshair or create like an XY axis, right?
Okay.
Is that how you do the current thing? So in the design that I'm proposing here, it uses multiple lasers to project a 4D cube using so like one of those lasers, when you diffract, it creates a horizontal diffraction pattern. Then I think I see in one of the videos you have another laser creating a vertical diffraction pattern. Or is that
No, it's part of the same diffraction lens. So the shape of the diffraction makes no difference whatsoever.
And that's not what you're looking at. That's not what you're. Well, I mean, it's what you're looking at, but it's not what you're seeing. It doesn't feel like it's really having to do with the laser or the surface. It's almost like the laser is just revealing something else. It's not. I understand part of, but it doesn't.
It reveals something that is already there. So it doesn't seem like the laser.
Yeah.
You need this particular setup to see what's there, but you can't impose boundaries, so far it seems, on what the code is doing. And playing with what the light is doing, I don't think is going to do the trick, because the light is not actively at work in manifesting any part of the code as far as I observe the situation. It's just revealing it like a flashlight. So, and doing anything
It's
to the left.
rendering it, or rendering it for us to be able to see.
I
is
don't
another way
think
to
I
say
don't
it,
think it's
right?
rendering it. No, I think that's where the confusion comes from. I think it's moving. It's doing what it's doing all the time. So it's not. It's,
Okay, well, I used the wrong word then.
Yeah.
So, let me try to describe it slightly differently.
Can I before you
Where-
do because I think that this might actually shed some light for you. Hold that thought.
Okay.
I want to describe it to you before you completely fade because I want to plant this in your mind. What
Go for it.
what I think is happening is that as opposed to like how you think we write code, right? When we're putting code into a computer, it's basically it's an instruction that you give a very high level operative part of the computer. It goes all the way down, through the compilers, and it communicates through machine code to the actual logic gates what to do, right? And then it translates to like ones and zeros, essentially, right? But so essentially, it's a way for us to write a command that then translates to some kind of a physical action that happens on the bottom layer of the computer that then executes the functions that then goes back up the layers that translates that to some kind of an output that we can see on the screen. That's a very broad. Obviously, this is a super
Yeah, exactly. And
Wait,
the way
but
that
here,
I'm
hold
comparing-
on. But I don't want to lose that train of thought. But what I think is happening there is a little different. I think, and this relates to what people were posting around, and maybe you've seen it, about this supposedly found parts of a craft that was worked on in Palo Alto a while ago, and they had these weird symbols that actually resemble what we see in the laser a lot. So I don't know if that story is real or not. I have no idea. But these symbols are very similar. So what it made me think of is this. I think that the code is so sophisticated is that the symbolic representation of it itself plays a role in the function that it communicates to whatever it's instantiated in. What I mean by that, then instead of going through all these layers of like high level description of the, of the actual JavaScript or Python or whatever, all the way down the levels into binary, you have a situation in which you build an environment, the simulation itself, it reacts to particular shapes in a particular order. And only this kind of like sacred code or sacred language, it has the power to do that in that particular environment. In other words, in simple terms, if you put let's say a particular craft made out of a particular material, and you expose it to a certain amount of magnetism and you put it in the right frequency field, whatever you have to do, it would do nothing. And then if you know the right sequence of that particular code, it's not going to work with English, not going to work with any other language, it's only going to work with these exact symbols. If you paint it literally on the thing in the right order, in the right shape, in the right size, on the side of the craft, now the craft changes functions because it is made out of a material that the material itself knows that when these symbols are present, now I have to play a different role. It activates a new function. And now if you're going to present the same field, the same magnetic field, and all of a sudden it will start levitating. I'm just giving you an example of what I think is happening. This is how I believe this code differs from how we think of computer code, because I think it literally tells reality what to do when you use it properly. Does that make more sense of it, or is that confusing you even more?
No, absolutely. It's actually along the same lines as I'm thinking, and so you're helping me develop better metaphors to describe what I'm visualizing.
Okay.
And within the next week, I need to see with my own eyes, because a lot of the things are just going off visual assumptions just based on watching other diffraction things, the videos, and testimonies. So
Okay.
think about it this way. Imagine that if we're swimming in this code all the time, right? That there could be some sort of debug or option menu from each observer's perspective. And so my theory is you found some way to kind of render a terminal window or let's say a information window. And my hypothesis is by taking multiple lasers and creating edges that form a cube or other geometric patterns by using multiple diffracted lasers to kind of create windows or
I see what you're
2D
saying.
or
Oh, I see what
3D.
you're saying. So you're basically equating with the process that I discovered to opening a terminal. Like I found a way
Exactly,
into
because
the terminal.
if we find
Okay.
the right geometric pattern, maybe it presents like input command, like that's all that appears. You're like, what? Right? So
Yeah.
if you have the goggles on and we find the right geometric pattern and the tuning through the app that allows us to maybe use AI to cycle through lots of different patterns or ways to present the laser diffraction to see if the code self-organizes into something else. Because it knows, like you're saying, this code is present. We're now going to isolate it to a container or a visualized window using the laser discovery that you had and see if it self-presents itself into something where we can discern more information from it. That's sort of where the idea was coming
Sure.
from.
Rikos brings a really good point. And by the way, amazing, Malia, I do see you. I will respond to your comment in one moment. But Rikos saying, tell him about the console. I told you already about it, right? Are you aware of the fact that I see a straight up computer console every time I'm on the molecule?
I had not heard that yet.
Oh, well, you should watch the video watch the one on YouTube, because I'm also giving a little bit more breakdown in the beginning. I think it's important. And I also created a 3D rendering of what the console appears to be, at least the base of it. So a few months after I built the laser, they, I guess, changed something about my brain or something like that. But basically, every time I smoke it, a straight up computer console opens up for me. It's super coherent. It's in the room. It's like a regular object. I can walk around it. It's always the same. The sets of menus that it presents is sometimes different. So if you watch a video on YouTube on Dango Thoughts called The Console, it's not that far down. You can just find it.
I will probably go watch that right after I drop out of the stream, because that's exactly what I'm envisioning, that if everybody had a pair of these goggles, like, could you walk up to everyday items now, and with the right geometric pattern, it presents, I don't know, metadata, different options on objects that we encounter inside the simulation. And then in the paper, I detail how maybe we could integrate AI for analysis to help us discern more things out of the patterns that we're seeing. Although the challenge becomes the effect of the molecule and the observer's part in all of this.
Yeah. So actually, funny enough,
that actually led to the other idea of actually hacking the diffraction. So I don't know, maybe I shouldn't even get this one started. You can read it at the end of the paper. But once I got done brainstorming how to this thing we're talking about now with let's call it a hypervision cube, or a better rendering of a context window. I started playing around with this idea of, could we create glasses or goggles that takes all the light coming in, diffracts it, manipulates it, reconstructs it, and passes it through, which is a new approach to AR, right? Because it's taking digital imagery and passing it through. I think you've also may have stumbled across interesting ways that we may take different approaches to augmented reality devices. This is like a byproduct of some of the things
so
that
actually, funny enough, so all of that, I'm totally on board with that being a possibility. But I would say, actually, and to your question, Mary, do you think the code is being changed and that's why we have the Mandela effect? Maybe. Good theory. I'm not sure. Well, I guess time will tell.
Once we get more instrumentation, we could definitely start having. You probably already maybe doing some coordinated experiments across test sites. We can test communication with coordinated events across distances.
Yeah. So, but this actually ties nicely to what amazing Amalia asked. She's asking, where's that question? Apologies. She says, yeah.
Mandela effect?
No. She's asking, well, I don't see the question now, but she's asking, with the knowledge that you have realized, how has it helped you individually? Have you utilized? So this question actually is, ironically, sharp on both edges. Because on the one hand, she's absolutely right. Because ultimately, I think that what it's trying to tell us is, first, before you get into the whole analytical conversion of what you think is going on out there, we need you to first understand what all of this means about you. Because you are also a type of technology, and at the moment, you don't really know how to activate yourself fully. So what I think the console is there for, and after you're going to watch the video, maybe you're going to have a little bit more clarity on what I mean by that, but I think it's there to train certain facets of my attention that I don't know I have. So it allows me to basically control certain panels only when I activate a particular sequence of attention in my brain, and it's trying to train me to do something. I met a few other individuals that claim to see something like the console. I met two individuals that I know for a fact that seeing exactly what I'm seeing because they told me about it before I made the console public. I actually refrained from talking about the console before because I personally am not a big fan of trip reports. They kind of bore me. I think they're arbitrary. That to each his own, obviously. So I don't really. I was trying not to really talk about my personal experience as something that I think that holds water because who cares, right? If you can't experience it, who cares? But I think it's robust enough to talk about, and that's why eventually I released and talked about it. But to your question directly, Amalia, first of all, the knowing that something much, much greater truly is happening, maybe to you it was always obvious, and some people that is the case for them. It was never the case for me. I come from a very analytical perspective at the world. So to me, the whole idea of spirit, God, all of these things was very foreign. So the fact that I have some conceptual framework to enter the space through, and by the way, this is with the fact that I meditate for years, I do meditation retreats, so I am familiar with the contemplative and meditative path. However, it never really made it salient to me that an actual thing is out there, if that makes sense. However, now that I know for a fact that something else is out there, it actually made me reassess a lot of focal positions I have in life. So I try to spend much more time with my loved ones, try to really enjoy every moment I have here on the planet. So all this, the good stuff that you would want to imagine is actually a direct product of the fact that I know for a fact something bigger is happening. So maybe this is not it, and maybe I actually want to make the best of every single moment that I have. And it doesn't necessarily mean that this would be the effect for everybody, but that's what it gave to me. But the reason in the beginning of this comment I said that it's actually, this question is sharp in both directions. In other words, it's poking both sides of the conversation to reassess what they believe is true, is that towards the spiritual side, the poking is, well, actually, it is true that you want to kind of bring a deeper understanding of what you are and how you manifest in the world and how it activates different types of new realities in your life and all of that good stuff. However, it is also the case that there's something out there that is separate from you, at least in terms of, this level of reality. We're not talking about the ultimate somewhere omega point. And it is also important to understand that you are dealing with an alien technology. What I'm seeing there, and this is a conversation I've had today with a friend actually, I am very confused by many of the claims that people make in the psychedelic space, for example, about always experiencing that it's all about the higher self and all is one and heaven and all that stuff. That's not what I'm seeing at all. And I think if you press most people when they experience these spaces, the truth is that they're extremely alien. Alien in every sense of the word. Even emotions are alien. And they are as alien as you expect them to be if you're dealing with actual aliens. I feel like, and again, I'm kind of recapitulating some of the stuff that I already expressed to my friend today. So to her, it's going to sound like I'm just repeating myself, but I think it's important to say. Even when you consider beings like the Greys, the people report like in the UAP phenomena, I think that's not alien enough. That's still very humanoid. Like I would expect an alien to be really alien, and that's what I'm getting from the psychedelic space, both in the mushroom space and definitely in the spirit molecule space. So I'm saying this to the effect that it is very important to tie it to something that betters our life. But on the other hand, it's also important to not get too bogged down by this idea that unless you see a function for it right now, somehow it doesn't hold water. When we discovered quantum mechanics, like I always say, I say this often on the lives, it was never clear to anyone that it will have any influence on what we understand about where we function. Like, yeah, it gives us some understanding of a deeper part of nature, but nobody ever thought when it was devised that we'll ever be able to apply it to something in our day-to-day. But less than 2 decades later, it made transistors possible, it made lasers possible. The reason you and I can talk here right now is because we understand quantum mechanics. So just because you don't know exactly what it's what the function of it right now, doesn't mean it doesn't have any value, and most likely it has tremendous potential to do something that at the moment we don't understand. So it goes both ways. We want to remember that it's important to develop ourselves too and understand ourselves as a tool, but also don't get too carried away with that attitude. The external world, whatever it might be, is still a real thing. And this is something that actually spiritually minded people are a little bit less comfortable with, but I think it's important to consider that. Let's see what we have not saying. Danny on YouTube is saying, but what would make them the tools and not something describing the tool? So I think Danny, if I understand your question correctly, I think the code is both the symbol that specifies the tool and is the tool itself. This is what's unique about this particular code. I personally believe we influence the simulation individually every single day. Yeah, but like I said, what I'm receiving, at least from that space, from my interaction with it, is that the idea that there's still some kind of a, let's not call it the physical space, but a regularity in existence that manifests what you call a wall, that's still a real thing. You can't walk through the wall. You can influence reality, and you can probably even influence, in the sense of manifestation and all of that stuff, but it is not infinitely malleable. There are still some regularities that should be taken into account. And that's very easy to see if you just notice that, again, you can't walk through a wall, you can't jump from the 20th floor. Don't ever try, right? And I'm saying maybe I should reframe the question.
Unless you turn your console on and turn on God mode.
Yeah, and then even then I wouldn't try. How do we break through perceived limit? And is this possible? Fate versus destiny. That's a really good question, Anna. How do we break through perceived limit? And if it's possible, I do think that it's more possible the second we start understanding what the thing is. But I would say it's not different from the scientific method. So, all the boundaries that reality seems to impose on us, we overcome by understanding it better and then working all kinds of workarounds. We're finding workarounds to make something work that previously was not considered possible. What is added is that we are part of the process of the technology that is evolving. And I think finding that middle ground between these two attitudes is the only way to go. Understanding that the observer, whatever it is a central function in what reality is doing, but at the same time, the observer is still swimming in the waters of whatever is already created, and what is already created has a momentum. It's not like that. It takes some time. And both of these attitudes have to be held in mind at the same time. This is why I constantly try to keep this middle ground between, how science approaches things. I think they need to loosen up in many ways and allow the observer to enter the picture and start actually talking about it in real terms. And the spiritual side needs to understand that there's deep validity in the scientific method, in rigor, and looking at things closely and accepting them for what they are. And I think it's only the middle ground that will get you there eventually. Of course, I can be wrong, but that's my impression at the moment. And Matthew is saying, regarding your console video, have you ever given a follow-up with more details? I'd love to hear more specific than mentioned in the video. Not yet. Yeah, I mentioned this yesterday. I am working on a follow-up video, and I feel increasing pressure to finalize it. It will be coming eventually, and it will have newer graphics and all of that stuff. And by the way, Anna, I don't know if you're still here with us, but if you are, did that at all answer your question, or did I run with your question in the wrong direction? Because what you added, I see at the end, was i.e. fate versus destiny. I'm not really sure that I personally understand the difference between fate and destiny. In other words, is there like a part there that is different that I'm not quite getting? If I have to make a wild guess, you maybe mean that fate is just a template, that's how it is, and there's nothing you can do about it, and destiny has some wiggle room for you to inform the process. Would that be the moment we experience? She's saying, yes, absolutely agree with your point. At the moment we experience duality as much as we can experience oneness. On a philosophical level, we are still an observer swimming in the waters. Yeah. Fate is written, destiny, wiggle room. Okay, perfect. Yeah, I think it's an open-ended simulation. So the environment is set, and certain things are set in place so the whole thing doesn't fall apart. And then every observer has the possibility to maneuver reality. But I think the catch-22 here is that the way we influence infinite possibility space is not by changing what is happening, but by deciding what we think it is. So we only change the meaning of what is happening, but we're not changing what is happening. Does that make any sense? That's my impression. That like, just like two different people can walk out of a social situation and have completely different impressions about what happened. That's very common because we have different frames. But I would say that's the truth even about physical reality. So like my impression of physical reality in very nuanced ways, probably different from anybody else. And then it can go even more and more and more different. And eventually you find yourself with a completely different looking reality, but it is the same physical reality. It's just that it's perceived through a very different kind of meaning goggle. Does that make any sense? Let's see what we got here. Let's see what we got here. Same thing with light. It breaks light speed when it hits the end. Oh, I think I missed like a bunch of comments. To all the newcomers across all the platforms, we are mostly talking about the simulation hypothesis. My name is Danny, and I'm claiming to have found actual proof we live in a simulation. If you're not familiar with my content, feel free to ask what I'm talking about specifically. Or you can watch my videos on YouTube on Dango Thoughts, or on TikTok, Danny Goller. But I'm also here every day to answer questions that people might have. And we're also talking about science, religion, spirituality, whatever comes to mind. Andrew Gemmell definitely operates as though this may well be technology. That is true. Although he has his own reservations about it. Love you too, Toyotron Max. Good to see you. But in the end, it quantifies to the betterment of humanity in some way, even if it is millennia away. So again, this is goes back to my point. I'm all for bettering humanity and the planet, but I think this very human-centered attitude, to me, again, to each his own, of course, but to me seems to be kind of missing the point, which is, and again, this is another part of the conversation I had today with that friend, which is that I said that it feels to me that when utterances of this flavor are made, I know I definitely know that you mean this in the best possible way, but to me it seems like good old human xenophobia towards anything that is not us. You know what I mean? Like it's almost like being racist towards all other alien civilizations. It's like, well, who said that what humans need and want is the most important thing? And then the insistence, especially from the spiritually minded side, is like, well, no, it's all us. It's all us, God. It's all us, just us. It's just us. It's just me. I don't know that. I don't know why would that automatically be the thing, right? Like, why wouldn't it be like infinite number of civilizations first? And then you're still in the space where you have to kind of interact with a lot of them, just like it was always. You were in a little village, then you found a neighboring village, then that was the other, then you learn how to live together, then it was a bigger city, now it was a different city, then it was a different country, then it was, there's always some, like, obviously, yeah, eventually we all combine into some kind of unified thing, but I don't think, at least to me, it doesn't seem logical to assume that we're all of a sudden there, right? I know a lot of people are convinced of this. I don't know why they're convinced. I don't know why all of a sudden we'll break and become something else. But it seems much more plausible to me that we're about to discover about all the other civilizations, and we have to live with that fact. Thank you so much, Kirsten. I appreciate you. And learn how to not make our own needs and wants, as if we want to be truly democratic, universally, we have to consider the needs and wants of other species. And to me, it makes actually a much more holistic sense. I become more playful. There you go. Same thing with light. It breaks. I don't know what this refers to. Sorry. The integration of the two is the ability to see, or the eye of the needle, mind, and physicality. Eye of the needle, mind. I'm trying to understand. I'm not sure that I fully understand. Going to watch the console video. Thank you, Matthew. Appreciate you, brother. Wait. Apologize for your service. I'm trying to read through the comments quickly. Okay, so basically all the comments along the same lines. But yeah, so I mean, you get my you get my attitude, right? And it's always the same. I mean, I don't think it's a surprise. I always try to stay kind of like in the middle. So if we are advocating for the most compassion and understanding for as many humans as possible and animals on the planet, and we're trying to cause the least suffering possible, and we're trying to make it non-human centric in that sense, why would all of a sudden in the spiritual realm, where we're postulating a much vaster world, why all of a sudden are we postulating, oh, okay, we're central? Didn't we just go back to the position of the Catholic Church from 500 years ago? Oh, no, now we're central. Why would that be the case? It doesn't make any sense to me. It would be much more reasonable to think that it's just going to keep, the concentric circles is going to keep expanding. And then now we're entering the spiritual space or the alien space, whatever you want to call it, and realize, oh, okay, there's not just the next village. There's not just other animals to consider. There's also other civilizations to consider. How do you make that democratic? I feel it's a much more noble goal to hold that position. But maybe you don't share that vision, and that's okay. Agree with all other species and life forms was speaking. Oh, I see. And just to make it super clear, civilization have risen and fallen time and time again, whatever form. Speaking above. Oh, I see. Okay. And also, this is more of a meta comment about my style of conversation in general, especially in these chats. Very often, I would kind of run with an idea, and then I would discover that the person who I was responding to, like just now, actually either meant something else or responding to somebody else. But I try to make points that still stand on their own, so at least I don't look like a complete fool by the end of it. And I hope that I hope this was the case at the moment as well. But again, so if we're aligned there, I'm very happy. I've been told by the entities in the molecule space are aiming to read all religions and become one. Matthew Savage, in writing paper, Buddy Holly, in music class, she was able. Okay, that's a little bit too. I don't know really. Okay.
Hey Danny,
Hey.
just quick question.
Yeah.
When you tried a different color laser, what was different about the code you saw? What changed?
In the green, I saw also arrows, kind of like the recycling logo. You know the recycling logo, the 3 green arrows. So something like that kind of running in addition to the code. And in the blue, there were like types of beings that I saw aggregating around the light that I've never seen before in any other light. So it seems like there's other kinds of frequency that causes other kind of extra content to come on board, but the code is always the same. And also, to be fair, there were other things that are different about the lights. First of all, in general, when the wavelength is different, the frequency is also different. So it might not be the wavelength, it might be the frequency, I don't know. It's going to have to be tested somehow. It might also be that I know that the blue laser had a much higher output, which was actually why I'm not using it anymore, because it actually, like, even if I just project it on a wall, straight up gives me a headache after 5 minutes. But so maybe they were attracted to the intensity of the light. So there's a lot of things that I think are specific and matter. But yeah, there's definitely added content that I've never seen in the red one before.
So it's always added content. You always see the code, but then there's in addition to that, you see more with the different color.
Yeah, the code is so like there. Like it's kind of. It doesn't matter how often I see it. I've seen it so many times at this point. It never not blows my mind. Like whenever I actually, so very often what would happen, I would be with somebody in the room and we're just doing it. I'm just kind of guiding them. And then I'm absent-minded and I'm not really looking at it. But every time I truly look at it, I'm like, dude, this is crazy. This is insane. This is happening. So yeah.
It's shocking.
It is shocking. Yeah.
Shocking.
There's a blue one where I can get this. Wait, Kirsten is saying there's a blue one that I can get this.
Just talking about the laser.
Oh, where I can get this, dude? My mind sometimes is so stupid, it's crazy. Often see the things in the code being scattered geometry. Well, the same way. Like if you can get us, by now everybody should understand. All you need is the diffraction, and the different lasers. That's it. So if you can buy anywhere the laser already diffracted, that's all you need. But again, never above 5 milliwatts. And keep in mind that the closer to violet you go, the frequency is higher. So even if the output is not as strong, you still don't want to be staring, like playing with it for longer, because it does. Actually, you know what? I don't know enough about the science. Maybe somebody here can correct me. I don't know if the frequency can actually cause more cornea damage than lower frequency. I'm not sure about that, because maybe it's just the output. But because I'm not sure, just to err on the safe side, I would say the closer to violet you get, so blue, green, blue, and so on. Red is basically the lowest frequency, because it's the longest wavelength from the visible light, obviously. That's why I feel like it's also the safest. Do you sell the blue ones? No, it's just a matter of getting. Just to, again, maybe like a little public announcement here. The stuff that we have online that are made, there's not numerous. There's a couple of people that were, in the beginning I was making some of them, and then there was 2 people that were making them, helping me out. It's actually super time consuming. It's definitely not a good way to make money. So we only make them when we feel it's absolutely necessary. We actually always encourage people to just try and get the equipment. If it's an absolute, like people are like, oh dude, I don't know how to do that, no problem. We'll make them, we'll send them. But it's just much more expensive and it's much more time consuming for us. So actually I encourage people to just get it themselves. But if you insist, we'll get it, we'll make it, we'll ship it. It's just, we need to figure that part out with the new frequency, that's all. It's not really that complicated, to be honest. Wait, let me see a few comments on. And Danny, we describe Unity, then we switch when UFOs come around. That's exactly my point. We describe Unity, then we switch to UFOs come around. They probably doesn't fit it, the special feel humans have when it comes to religion yet. Would you consider selling a few lasers set up different colors? Yeah, of course. It's just figure out the process and the time that it takes. It's actually easier to just kind of explain how to make it. But I'm trying to figure out a model in which it's also beneficial to do it more in bulk and maybe make a deal with some company that makes lasers or something. But it needs to have a certain amount of lasers ordered, and that's not there yet. Also, it might open a window for like potentially setting up some kind of a fund. The point with this is definitely not to make money, so maybe we can use that fund to, I don't know, help people pay. We did a retreat last year, and we're planning to do another one. Maybe set up like a fund for people who can't afford the retreat, and then maybe bring them also. Who knows? Something along the lines of good deeds.
And it's really, really easy to make it. It really,
yeah,
you have to
it's super.
buy like a little battery pack holder and the laser, and connect 2 wires up, and you're done.
Exactly. Wait, there was a point. Oh, so and this is something this is obviously much more of a personal thing for me. But to Danny's comment, we describe Unity, then we switch to UFOs, and it come around. So like we switch our opinion about it, right? Because it doesn't fit a certain narrative. It really feels to me sometimes kind of like King's New Clothes, like the whole movement of like overly insisting that it must be that we're all one, and it's all like just like, oh, we have arrived, that's it, God is here, arrived, we're there, right? It seems to me like almost like a King's New Clothes kind of thing, which is so obviously, at least in the psychedelic space, so obviously not that, and yet people insist that it's that. It kind of feels like that. But then again, what do I know? Maybe they see content that I'm not. Maybe we see different content. It's also possible, and maybe it's just my. It's always nice to think of yourself as having like this the true, honest, special opinion, whatever. So I'm aware of that as well. But it really feels that way because I have a very extensive experience with these molecules. They never felt like what you would call spiritual to me. Not bad, just not spiritual. Like it's just a technology. Like it doesn't feel like what you would, I don't know. Like it just doesn't feel like that to me. And maybe it is very possible that some people are on different channels, and their content is different. As I always say, the other molecule, what people call the God's molecule, the 5-MeO one. I think we can say that on the chat. Hopefully. That one definitely feels a little different. Like it feels more like you opening up. But the NN one, No, it feels just like a super advanced technology to me. Never, ever once did it feel like, like divine or anything like that. Again, it doesn't mean that it feels the opposite of divine. Just not that. Just not that. Not that vibe. Is the retreat in Costa Rica? Yeah, Mr. Z. How do you know it? Are you? Were we in contact before? Yeah, we did the retreat in Costa Rica and planning to do another one. There's also another location we found in Colombia, but the one in Costa Rica we know for a fact is a great location. Me too. Love this conversation. Grateful for you all, and we're grateful for you as well, Anna. Would you consider selling a few lasers? Okay, got that. Sorry. Tech neither. Yet the Pope speaks into a mic. I'm so glad I'm able to be here today. This is next level stuff. Really interesting. I appreciate you, not. Maybe we're all one, but in the meantime, listen up, kids. On the journey towards the unity point, the complexity keeps increasing. Couldn't agree with this more. This is you phrased it perfectly, Anna. Thank you. By the way, I don't know. Is it okay to plug your book, or you prefer not, Anna? I'll wait for your response before you say. I think it's important because it's on this topic. Well, not on this particular topic, but on the topic of kind of like the king's new clothes kind of thing. Hold on. Kind of exactly what they are in the meditative space. I think it's very helpful. Oh, did it just delete the chat? Okay, well now we know we can't navigate from this window. Oh yeah, so the name of the book by Anna is The Dark Side of Dharma, or Dhamma, however you want to pronounce it. I highly recommend it. And it basically talks about the fact that in the spiritual circles, in the meditative circles, which is a little different because it's very like, we're talking about like actual like Vipassana, like Dzogchen, like actual like meditative circles. There's this tendency to not talk at all about the potential dangers of interacting with these spaces without proper guidance, and then very often people feel like something is wrong with them because they experiencing a very different thing that people talk about. And so I think it's like a critical, important point about the need to wash everything, to make it too naive, I would say, because again, yin and yang, right? Everything is out there. So I think that's very important to consider, like a balanced point. So The Dark Side of Dharma, highly recommended. Have you ever? And by the way, I'm still gonna keep asking, and if you will be willing to be interviewed for the film, Kirsten and Amicary, thank you so much for the gifts. For the documentary that we're working on. Soon I'm going to be starting releasing the trailers for it, so it's very exciting. It's going to be great, and I'm going to keep trying to convince you to give us an interview on it. Devil's Advocate, you understand all the answers you research. What answer would make you satisfied? I'm not so much. I know it's maybe hard to believe because I come across as maybe very kind of like, answers oriented, which was probably the case for me most of my life. But it's not so much the case anymore. For the most part, I'm guiding the process at this point. A lot of people are very enamored by the discovery and they want to just like fully engage, full throttle, And I'm stepping more and more into the space of just routing the process, which is like thinking what would be best for it, and not. I can't stop anybody from doing whatever they want, but I'm not so answers driven. It would be wonderful to make an incredible discovery, but I think that the best outcome that I can imagine is if we all make the discovery together. It is the joint project that actually brought us together, and we all opened the gates together. That's what feels the most right to me. That's to your question, Amalia. Savage, that's an interesting idea. I'm working on developing additional interaction points for the project. unofficially, I guess. I think the whole thing is unofficial. I'm an information scientist. 11 Bill 11, nice to meet you. Oh, between, yeah. It's unofficial. It's funny because I was joking with, well, again, I don't know if they want to be named, but I was joking with somebody from our chat the other day, and we were talking and said it would be funny if we, if we're an official, like a, incorporated entity, and we have to submit taxes, and it's like, hey, what is the deduction on interacting with the eighth dimension? Is there a different tax code there? Dark side of Dharma, yeah, or Dharma. The way it's spelled is, oh yeah, sorry, see, dyslexia. You spelled it perfectly. Thank you. I recommend it to anyone interested in exploring this. Thank you. I connect the spirit. It's beautiful. I always protect myself first. Exactly. I can wait for the documentary. Can't wait for. Well, I appreciate the excitement. I'm actually very excited to share, but you have to wait a few more months. We're still definitely working on it. So the pursuit of routing is the thrilling part of your life so far. There's a thrill in it, but it truly, like, I'm on the daily, I'm just focusing on the things that I'm showing up for. This is one of these things. I love the chat, not just because I get to engage with you guys, but also I get to show up for something every day. And also the other things I show up for every day. I do part of the research every day. I work on all the skills that I believe that I need to either refresh or gain new skills in. So working on some of my, very well forgotten chemistry, refreshing my physics, like technical physics stuff, knowledge, working on my math, things that I do believe I will need at this point or another of the project to a more concrete degree. Working out every day, spending time with my dogs, with my fiance, leaving time to always visit family. Actually, that's really the majority of my focus, just to spend my time the best way possible. And I believe that will also the thing that will eventually culminate in us bringing some kind of a unifying set of ideas that is not tainted by the human impulse to make it about themselves. I don't know if that makes a lot of sense, but to me it does. Build me in the eighth dimension, please. Yeah. But I appreciate your line of questioning, Amalia. Truly, it's very relevant. It's very easy to lose yourself in these spaces, and this is something I sometimes have to point out to people, because again, you are absolutely right that it can cause psychotic breaks. It can cause, but it's not. It's just interacting with these ideas in general can be a dangerous interaction. So I think that what you're asking is very valid. Danny, have you experienced darkness in the space? Because I did initially, purging stuff, but never again. Definitely, of course. I can't say that I'm the same. I sometimes see the dark beings. I don't think it's personal. I think it's just there. So my fiance, they told her once, we can't really protect you. Everything is here, and you need to learn how to protect yourself. That's your responsibility. So maybe you did something incredible and you just completely created some kind of a interdimensional spaceship for yourself in which you cannot be touched by these things. I can't claim the same, but I also think that my journey is a little different. I think I'm some kind of I need to be aware of all things at once, kind of like what exists in that space. Obviously, this can just be some kind of a form of delusion of grandeur, but it's kind of like what it feels like to me. Like I need to be aware of what's going on, almost like a bird eye view of the situation. My own thoughts about reality thus far: there is a programmer, or i.e. God. Yeah, that makes sense. To understand myself is to understand the program. It may seem a bit self-centered, and it is. And like I said, to some degree, that's very valid, because ultimately, part of the balanced point of view is that you have to embrace yourself to a certain degree and recognize that no one else in existence, not just in the universe, but in all of existence, which would include the multiverse and the megaverse and Hamsterverse and all the verses, no one, especially in the Hamsterverse, is experiencing exactly what you're experiencing right now. So that's an important part of what reality wants to bring about, that you focus on what is in front of you. At the same time, the impulse to understand the rest of it is also there. So if we feel called, there's nothing wrong. It kind of relates to what Sean was bringing up yesterday. There's nothing wrong with leaning into that, because you can find the divine in that. I would submit to people who think that there's certain ideas, knowledge somehow equates to bad. I would submit to you that most scientists, for them, interacting with knowledge is interacting with the divine. For astronomers, studying the stars is divine. It invokes the feeling of divinity. I know this because my grandfather was a physicist, but I grew up my trajectory was to potentially become an astrophysicist. So I know what it's like to be completely enamored by outer space. And I know, looking back with everything I know now, that feeling of looking in this reverence for the incredible beauty of everything out there is very much along the lines of, what I would consider divinity. Let's see. Please protect yourself. There is good and bad. I hope you can prove what you're looking for. Hamsterverse can't wait to go there next. Exactly. I see you as a grounding element of the molecule and what it wishes to share. I appreciate it. But it's a means to a solution or an awareness of knowledge. Yes, and I think that knowledge is actually supreme. I know that not many share this idea, but I think knowledge is a supreme element in existence. Knowledge, if you ask me, is what everything, while it's existing, seeking constantly, because you're always ascending through the layers, and the only way to do that is to gain knowledge about what is happening. And by the way, it would include, so for example, understanding how to meditate properly, right? That's knowledge. Knowledge is not just how to build a rocket ship. Knowledge is just having a set of values and ideas that track reality, track what in fact is happening. And even if you believe that reality is a product of only what you believe, which I would submit to everybody, there's no reason for you to believe that it's just that. But even if you believe that, then the knowledge that this is the case is still knowledge. You can't get out of it. Knowledge is supreme. And ultimately, I think that the two modalities that God is kind of learning how to hone on an infinite level is the ability to gain the ultimate knowledge, coupled with the ability to just exist and be in love. So kind of like both sides of the spectrum. And now we're getting into like a very, loosey-goosey open philosophical debate about whether or not these are competing modalities, or are these the two modalities that God is trying to reconcile to bring it all forth at the kind of like the top moment of all of existence. Let's see what we got here. Because those of us called to work with it all have a role. I fully agree. Earth seems to derive on duality. Well, I would tell you that I think that duality never goes away all the way to the final moment. That's my impression. You never get out of duality until you just don't exist. And that is the definition of non-duality. You can have non-dual moments, which I've had a few times, but these moments are still encapsulated in a physical body that it itself is differentiated from the environment. And the experience that you have in the non-dual moment is that there is no self, but just whatever perception is happening. But the perception is still there. And I think that as long as it's there, you still have a certain dichotomy happening on some level. So I think that duality doesn't actually go away, but also I think that all statements of this kind, again, I can't know about you in particular, but from what I gather from most people that I interact with on a personal level, not on chat, because on chat you really can't know, but usually when I talk to people in person that utter the kinds of statements that you are making right now, the tendency is to very tacitly, but in a very real sense, almost cast some dirt on our existence here. It's almost like we say, but Earth. See, notice you even say, oh, you didn't say but. See, I put words in your mouth. I apologize. You said Earth seems to derive on, or maybe derive on duality. I don't know if it was a typo, but it, and again, correct me immediately if I'm getting it wrong, but it seems to me that it almost implies, because I'm looking at that statement and I go, okay, so what? Yeah, that's how we operate here. So what? But I feel like what's hiding behind that, and again, not sure if it's from you, maybe yes, maybe no, but I do notice that it happens often from people that speak like that. The statement behind that is we want to try and not feel duality. And I always think, why? Like, it's part of also a certain beauty of our existence, right? So it's almost like if you can't be happy here, why would you be happy in 5D or 8D? Why would that all of a sudden change? They have helped me evolve out of good and bad and accept all the lessons. That's amazing. Let's see if we have anything on YouTube that I'm ignoring. Nope. I think we're good there. Oh, let me actually write it down. The dark side of Dharma. And if I misspelled it, please forgive me. I feel the only way to true knowledge is by way of experience. I think it's a combination. I think it's a combination of experience coupled with critical thinking and third-person analysis. If you have to have first-person experience of something, then if you want to know deeper elements about it, you do have to analyze it deeper. And then that deeper understanding then falls onto and becomes part of the new moment of experience that you have through which you're experiencing the new moment. So, the whole system 1, system 2 ideas. When you're learning something that is very technical, math, physics, chemistry, whatever it is, at first you have some impression of what it is. Then you gain some very seemingly like concrete, like very fine-grained ideas, and maybe even things you need to memorize. But then eventually when you interact with it long enough, it just becomes of your kind of like intuition. It becomes part of your momentary experience. It's in your body now. The knowledge is assimilated in your body. And then it becomes part of your immediate experience. When a chemist looks at the periodic table, they have a much different experience than any other person that looks at the periodic table, because they have such a deep understanding of the intricacies and the relationships there that in one glance they can make up things very quickly, like it's part of their immediate experience. But it's a ever-evolving process that includes both modalities, I would say. And to think that only one of them reigns supreme and has to be focused on, I think is a mistake. The molecule helps you truly understand unity, consciousness. What you do to one, you do to all. I agree with that. My experiences with mole and other things seem to be greatly influenced by emotional states. Of course, set and setting. Absolutely it does. I agree, it's all a lesson. I stay alive and the spirit born. Without duality, there's no measure of truth, is my point. Yeah, so once again, I ran with your comment in a completely, not just wrong, but the opposite direction, so apologies for that. But that's what happened. But truth is duality, I think. I think truth is just the state of affairs as it is. Because nowhere is it written that we have to be aware of the ultimate truth, or even any kind of truth. But it is the case that the truth is there, even if we're not aware of it. And again, some people would disagree, but I don't see any way to describe a world coherently in which this is not the case. Without duality, we wouldn't appreciate the light and the love fully. Yep. Thank you, 11 in between 11. Thank you, everybody. Okay, so let's see if we have another subject we can pick up. Divine Reality said on YouTube, and then very mechanical. Couldn't agree more. And that statement, Anna, you gave is absolutely perfect. All my rambling, you summarized it in one line. Maybe we are all one, But in the meantime, on the journey towards the unity point, the complexity keeps increasing, and I would say has tremendous value, which I'm sure is meant by with the statement. I am a big fan of Charles Eisenstein. He invested in Eco Villa above San Mateo Mountains, Costa Rica. Oh yeah, have you seen my interview with Charles Eisenstein? It was also in Costa Rica. Lovely, lovely person. At one point, so you've been to one of his events? Is that what you mean? At one point in existence, whatever form that takes, there is a pinnacle. Yeah, nailing it. You have spirit guides that protect you if you ever need protection. FYI. Maybe. But then what would be the point of, like, maybe they protect you to a degree, but wouldn't it be much more economical from the point of view of existence if you learn how to navigate and protect yourself? Oh, I have people coming in. I didn't even see that. Wait. Sometimes you guys have to put it sometimes in the chat because it's not always clear that somebody's trying to come through. How are you guys?
Hey.
Great, thank you. How are you?
Doing amazing. Good to see you guys.
Yeah, so I just wanted to kind of elaborate on what I was saying was that, they originally showed me like I had to purge a lot of negativity out, right? And then once I got past that, they kind of showed me everything is just a lesson. There's no like true evil. It's just a lesson for the soul. And so that was really profound for me because I used to think, oh, demons and all that stuff. And they're like, no, this is all just a lesson for the soul. So
Interesting.
I've had that download as well.
Wow, cool. That's so great to get that confirmation. Yeah.
And Amazing Amalia is asking, are you your own spirit guide? I think so. Again, that's what the Buddha said. You are your own master, right? I do think that it's possible that while we're here in the training wheel sandbox space, there probably are some what you would call guides or protectors that kind of help you not completely lose the plot. But I do think that ultimately the goal is that they're trying to, so you can stand on your own feet kind of thing.
The higher self is the best protector of all.
Never mind. I had some 90s jokes, but no, I haven't.
Hey, Danny, so
Yeah.
do you know anyone at Burning Man right now doing the laser experiment?
No, I know a lot of people at the Burning Man. I haven't burned in years. I miss it. I want to go next year maybe. This year didn't fall. Eventually we'll be
That would be
definitely.
awesome.
Yeah, we
I
have
feel
we have to
since
find like
the
a.
mole is so prevalent in that space around thousands of people, you'd have like the laser tent that like
Oh
just
my
have thousands
God.
of people see the code, and then that'd be like the topic of conversation for the next day.
Well, then Rob,
Totally.
that
That would
that
roll it, dude. That'd be so awesome.
that
I've actually been thinking about that since I first saw your first TikTok video of how to like do an experiment where, like hundreds or thousands of people see it all in one day, and Burning Man just seems like the perfect place to do that at.
it would be the
People
perfect
would
place.
trip out. They would just be like leaving that experience just completely like mind blown.
Just all of Burning Man just aggregates to that one camp, that one tiny laser. Everybody like looking, just this tiny laser. We don't even make it bigger. It's just the same janky original laser I
Yeah,
built.
the same janky one. You just go into the
It's just
little
like
sandbox.
it's standing there. It's tripod. Like
It's like those janky like circus tents where like you walk in and you
Yeah.
see like the two-headed snake, and it's just like a plastic roll.
and we'll put a little wig on it just to give it character. It's like a blonde wig. We give it the same blonde wig that Joe Rogan wore, in that thing when the guy looked like him as He-Man. Yeah. Well, what do I want to say? Yeah, I mean, absolutely. Burning Man would definitely be the place to try something fun like that and combine it with some things. I had something I wanted to say about Burning Man. I forgot. Never mind. I do have one. I mean, Burning Man just filled with like crazy stories, but I actually have a story that's not necessarily that crazy. It's just psychologically painful for a friend of mine. He was in. It was at the burn, and then somebody from his, I guess their common circles is like, hey, I have a surprise for you. You wanna wait here for a second? And he's like, sure. And then he's like, and he was waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting, and then he's like, wait, what are we waiting for? He's like, well, because they were waiting, he didn't want to tell him originally. He wanted to surprise him, but like, okay, you don't want to say anything, but I want you to make sure that you stay. He's like, Elon is supposed to come here in a few minutes. We can have tea. Like it's like Elon Musk is gonna come. We're gonna have tea. He's like, oh my god, that's crazy. So then they wait and wait and wait, and again they wait and wait, and then eventually he's like, okay, look, it's probably not happening, right? And they were like, I don't know what the reason was. They needed to eat, whatever it was, but he walked away with his then girlfriend. And later, when after the bird, his friend called, it was like, dude, you were walking away. I could see the back of your head, and he walked in. It's like, dude.
Never fails, right?
Patience. Patience is everything. And I'm sure that this chat is also filled with people that are not big fans of Elon. They're like, why would you want to meet him? But some people do, and that's a very painful moment for somebody who does. That was just funny. The burn always teaches you something.
Irregardless of what you think about him, he's still a brilliant man.
Yeah, it just I don't know. It always stood out to me because there's always some kind of a lesson hiding in the Burning Man magic, which I absolutely learned is absolutely true. It's crazy. Like the amount of synchronicities that happens there is just truly out of this world.
I've never been, so.
Yeah, but I mean, I think it's a different subject. Let's see. Nope.
I'm also super interested in what is it going to be, the world's most powerful supercomputer Elon's building here in Tennessee and Memphis.
Mm-hmm. So, part of their new AI, you mean?
Yeah, XAI, supposedly going to be the most powerful supercomputer there is.
That's crazy. Well, I mean, OpenAI will definitely give them strong competition. That's why. Synchronicity almost made me crazy. It shook my mind. You want to tell us about the one that shook your mind the most? I mean, there's some pretty crazy ones. I want to hear if there's anybody here has a story that will top all of them. There's some pretty insane ones.
My synchronicities over the past few months have just been astronomical. They're like increasing every day, I feel like.
Well, so somebody said, I think it was Mandalov's Cake said that since she was watching the chat, I'm sure that's not what you meant, but she said since she was watching the chat, synchronicities like went up crazy for her, and that's the same phenomena that people report around the time when they use the molecule a lot, especially people in the extended state study. They talked about it endlessly, where synchronicities just went up to like a crazy degree. So many 17, yeah, 7. I think the uptake. Amalia is saying there are so many 2017 synchronicities that you counted, or 2015 the year, I would assume. There's actually there's one, but so Burning Man is filled with these like crazy synchronicity moments that truly, like, I'm not gonna bore you with a lot of the details, but really, like, it happens to you, you're like, this is insane. But there was one that is actually fabricated, but it's still the gravitas of this situation was crazy. I remember a friend of mine told me the first year he went, he was on obviously everything imaginable, and he went into the deep playa by himself, and he was on his bike, and then all of a sudden, for a while not seeing anything, all of a sudden he saw this one phone booth, and the phone was ringing, and he was convinced that he's just imagining it at first, but then he got closer. It was like, no, it was a real phone booth ringing. And he's like, okay. So he picks up the phone, and somebody goes, what do you want on your pizza? So he's like, okay, that's neat. So he just kind of told them whatever he likes. As obviously he's like, this is a joke, right? So he hangs up, and then he keeps going. About 15, 20 minutes later, he still keeps going to the deep playa. Somebody comes with a scooter, with a motorized scooter, hands him pizza with everything he asked for, and he's like, you have a good day, and left.
What?
Yeah.
What?
So Burning Man is filled with this shit. Like, it's just like, it's so imagine what coordination this requires. Somebody put their time, so like they need to have scouts, so they need to have somebody with constantly like looking for, right, if somebody arrives, like patience, and then eventually when somebody arrives, pick up the phone, okay, now they're looking at the phone, okay, now they're following that person the whole time. Somebody has to make the pizza, and they have to follow them, and they have to communicate like exactly where they are and find them. It's crazy. Like, I mean, obviously somebody
That's
made
one of
this.
the craziest ones I've ever heard.
No, this one is insane. But
Yeah.
it's there's a lot of things like that. There's one that is a regular there. It's called also with the phone for some reason, but it's called Call God, and it's always there every year. I don't know if they still have it, but they had it for a very long time. Basically, it's a phone booth, but like in the middle of the playa, in the middle of the central part, and usually there's a line there that is like, I've never done it because the line is always insane. But basically, you talk to God. Like, I don't know what is happening when you pick up the phone, but literally, you watch people, they like break down. They like cry and like, it's insane. It's like, it's a phone booth and there's a line from here up to the wazoo, and people just kind of waiting, and then people talk, and I don't know who's on the other side, but it's called Talk to God. Call God. Yeah, it's like, it's
Holy
insane.
shit.
It's insane. Yeah. It's shit like that all the time. But that's not the thing I'm talking about. There's like things that happen that. So one of the craziest ones that happened to us, I was there with my ex at the time, and we had like, this was already at the tail end of like a crazy amount of synchronicities that happened one after the other, after the other, after the other, after the other, in increasing craziness. The last one of that in a sequence of like 3 hours, and like more and more and more, and we're like, dude, is somebody following us? And then eventually we're like, we get to this point where we're like going to the plot, and Andrea, my ex, she goes like, oh, you know what it would kill right now? I forget the name of the beer she said, but it was like a particular beer, and she's like, a cold, whatever it was, I don't know, Coors Light, something, whatever she named. Less than 15 seconds, less than a minute for sure. A tiny monster truck, like a toy monster truck, because we heard like, comes next to us. We're still on the bike next to us with the beer she asked, ice cold. So she's like, so yeah. So she's like, we're like, what? And then we look up, and there's a guy on a like a lifeguard tower, a little higher. They built it like 3 stories high, and we look up, and he's like, so they're sitting there, and they probably have like a listening thing where they can hear more of the thing. And he has like this little truck, and they like send you surprise. They hear people talk, so you think about what are the chances he would have. Well, obviously we just happened to say a thing he had, right? So they probably have like a bunch of little things, tchotchkes and whatever. And whenever somebody passes by, they hear them say it, and they're like, and they send it with that little truck. And it's such a little gesture, but it blows your noodle. You're like, dude, what? And then this is also at the end of like already things that just like impossible. It was like, we said, hey, we would love to have like, wouldn't it be crazy that we would have like fresh muffins right now? And I know this is obviously nobody was following us. This was just straight up synchronicity. Within 5 minutes, there's this stunning guy and girl, both kind of like dressed as one angel and one demon, and they just come out to the road. And literally, they both look from like a catalog, and they're like, fresh muffins, and we're like, what? And they're like, they're baking them, like it was like shit like that, and it's just, or you want like a cuddle bottle, all of a sudden just appears out of nowhere, like it's just like at that point, if you don't think you live in a simulation, it's just it's insane, and I think it's because everybody are in this vibe of just giving, and it's just like this. And it amplifies the level of synchronicity to like an absurd degree.
Absolutely. You should talk about the experiences that happened around our mutual friend.
Yeah, but that's it takes me like 40 minutes to break it down. I should probably tell the story at some point, but definitely not
It'll
today.
blow your guys' mind. It will blow your mind.
Oh, it is crazy. Yeah, it absolutely is insane. That's probably one that takes the cake, because it also left like a digital mark after the tail end of it. But yeah, I should probably tell it in one of the. But I will have to. It will have to be about the beginning of the podcast, because it takes about 45 minutes to fully break it down. But yeah, good idea. Thank you. Please find scientific proof how it works. Wait, let's go back. This is interesting. I'm interested in this stuff. I got to go. I'm interested in this stuff. You got it. O2BS3. Just like that, I was scared out of my mind. Wait. Okay, there's a bunch that I missed. Apologies. What was state? Okay, there's a bunch of
there was
back
a
and
lot
forth.
that happened in Costa Rica too, especially like the last day of all that crazy stuff that happened. There was a lot of synchronicities. Yeah.
Yeah, but the more I talk about all this stuff, the more I realize there's a lot of context and also the relevance to the particular listeners. So if I feel that there's a particular part of the conversation that this might actually be of true value, I might talk about that. But otherwise, it feels to me that it's a little bit too far out of left field. Let's see this. What was the statement? Synchronicity made it crazy. Okay, finally I'm in the right place. There is a documentary on synchronicity. I wish I could remember the name. Let me see. Look it up. Just like that. I was scared out of my mind. Okay. How are you doing,
See,
Sport Muse?
I think there are there's no accidents that happen when you work with the molecule. If you really pay attention, crazy stuff happens. Like books have fallen off a shelf, and then I look at it and I'm like, oh wow, like it's something they wanted me to see. So there's nothing that when you're working with the molecule, nothing is just by chance. It's very much like it feels like it's planned.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I mean, a book flying off the shelf, that's like another level. That's already kind of like, they're really pushing the book towards you, literally. That's already another level. Yep, definitely in my group. My mind has been blown, anything impossible at the point. For some reason, though, I feel like synchronicity tries to throw us off the path of discovery, a distraction because we are getting too close to the truth. I feel like that's just a choice of seeing it that way, right? Like you can look at it from that perspective, or a perspective of you're getting closer to the truth. It's equally as valid. I feel like it's a matter of who you believe is operating behind the scenes. Do you think it's somebody who's trying to hurt you or prevent you from getting to
your perspective and your emotions before you go into it? Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, but I feel like, and Malia, correct me if I'm wrong. I feel like you're talking in general, right? Not just in the molecule, but like in general. Yeah, I think but I think Kirsten, what you said is exactly that, which is the feeling behind it. Like I think there's like an imprint of whatever action was taken. Yeah, general. Nature plays in a huge part of the essence exams. Have you experienced this? Wait, nature plays in a huge part of the essence exams. Have you experienced this? I'm trying to make sure that I'm not misunderstanding the question. I think it's a little bit too abstract for me. Can you clarify? Just because I also, like, we are also nature. What do you mean, like natural processes around us? Is that what you mean? Exactly. Of course, I look at 142. Yeah. So I feel like synchronicities can be either one. I think that ultimately it's important that we only focus on the things that seem to leave a healthy trail behind us. So not just in the moment, but you look over time. I always say, like, how do people feel when you leave the room? How does your life look after a few months of going in a particular direction? Does it look better? Does it look like it's destructive? Kind of seeing these things, I think, is also a very important data point. Yes, I have patterns in animals and nature, definitely seen. I see what you're saying.
I think there's always like signposts that try to get us on the right path, and then our brain, because it's pattern recognition software, tends to like try to go back to the old program. And if you follow the signposts that kind of lead you to the new path, then you'll kind of stay on track. But the brain always wants to go back to the old program.
Yeah, the fear element of it. Would that be it?
Yep, exactly.
Old program is easy. What do you mean by that? Oh, it's easy to stay there. Yeah, exactly. Change is always harder. And it's always uncomfortable. And I think there are parts of development that are more plateau-like, and then you reach another level where you just rise up, and then it's uncomfortable for a little while. And I feel like that's where we are now, collectively, personally, and eventually we'll stabilize again in a new layer of comfort, whatever it is.
Have you seen Sean Webb's research about how to change programs, old programs? He's called Mind Hacking Happiness. It's amazing. You should check him out.
Sean what?
Sean Webb.
Sean Webb. Let me write it down.
He developed an actual formula to mind hack, like getting out of fear and writing new programs and overriding the old ones.
There you go. You guys should check it out. I'll definitely check it out and see what's up there. Oh, something I actually wanted to ask you, the business, because every time we talk, you fall a lot more on the. I mean, obviously you've done the molecule many times and all that stuff. These comments I made about the molecule not really feeling spiritual but feeling more technical, and you are someone who are you're coming here every day. You're always helping out. You're like you becoming like family over here. So what is your take? Is that your experience too or not? Or you experience much more of the spiritual element?
Yeah, I had your, whenever you said that earlier, I was thinking about my response. I was actually going to ask you earlier before I had to hop off, because you were saying more technical usually, but you said you did have that one experience where you met Jesus on it, right? So you have had like one spiritual encounter, right?
It was still the way it appeared. It was still the same technical thing, and yeah, I wouldn't call it Jesus. I would. Oh, you're talking about so two different experiences. One in which I saw the element of Jesus ascending and all of that stuff, and that one didn't have that element of like, it just had like it was just a presentation. It was very technical.
Gotcha.
And then the other one was, which is actually what Kirsten is referring to, that account. That one, but that one didn't feel like what I would call Jesus. This one just straight up felt like source. And I know they're interchangeable, but if I have to put my emphasis on what it felt like, it didn't feel like Jesus. It felt like just source.
And I felt the same thing around this person. Same thing. That source energy come through, and it's like there's no mistaking it. It was something unlike anything I've ever experienced. That level of love and intensity, and just like something is different here, and everything shifts.
And at the same time, turmoil.
True. Yes, totally.
Yeah. Important to mention. So I think that ultimately it's what a lot of interacting with a lot of different individuals of the flavor that have like this new level of abilities in different ways, and made me realize that my very long-standing, hard-won understanding that there are no shortcuts stands firm. There are no shortcuts. You can. It's very easy to lose yourself in processes that take place that are very powerful, and forget the fact that in order to get to any place yourself, you still have to do all the work, and no one can collapse that distance for you.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I'm not telling you, I'm just saying, because that was my experience with a lot of the different kinds of people that kind of embody that kind of thing. That ultimately there's always the human component there, and we can only make the right gestures and utter the right noises in order to actually get to the right place. Like this one time was a green triangle in a tree. The light said you'll have to look through them when all lined up, made of prisms, and they look behind. Oh, and also Kirsten, yeah, appreciate it. I don't know how that works, but like, do I need to make you as a moderator, or how does it work?
So click on my profile, and then you'll see 3 dots, and then you click on the 3 dots, and it'll say add mod. Add moderator.
Wait.
So you click on my
Because
profile.
I think because you're in the chat, there's no 3 dots. You have to be off the chat for me to do that, I think.
So click on one of the comments that I wrote.
Okay,
See where
let
it
me
says like
let me see,
7
let
of
me
the
see.
stars. Yeah, click
Yeah.
there.
I see. Okay.
Yeah, and then the 3 dots, and then.
Oh, there you go,
it'll
add
to-
moderator.
Yeah.
You come, look at your food, pick comment. Okay. Oh, so now it gives you all these abilities. Amazing. See, you can give people superpowers on TikTok. It's crazy.
Yeah, just because sometimes questions get asked and stuff, and then they get lost, and so it's like helpful to have a mod, because I have
Oh.
people on mine when I do that, so they can highlight it for you, so you don't forget to answer it.
Definitely, yeah, really appreciate it. Yeah, I definitely didn't want to spur it on anyone, but thank you for offering. Sign has affected this influence. Sign has. I was raised very religious. It has definitely influenced by perception of reality, but my analytical side. Got it. Has affected this influence. Got it. Yeah, I can. Go ahead.
I have a quick question. Have you experienced with the molecule Hebrew language coming through? Because
Yeah.
this has been recent for me, and I don't speak Hebrew, but I'm like looking at the words that they're giving me and stuff, and like I figured out some of the words are Hebrew, and I'm like, okay, what?
Yeah, definitely.
What is? Oh, you have? Okay.
Yeah, like Japanese
Interesting.
and Hebrew and regular numbers all together. I mentioned this in the exactly. And I think you're right. I think it's
haven't
almost
read that, yeah.
yeah. I think it takes some time for the brain to start discerning the differences between the characters. It's almost like your brain is learning how to see it. And when it does, you all of a sudden see that some of it looks like Hebrew. Again, it's it's kind of hard to say that it's exactly that, but definitely some characters that kind of look like a Hebrew aleph. Kind
Yes,
of like a
yes, exactly. And I actually
you turn
wrote
on the
down
water
one
video?
word that came through, and when I looked it up, it wasn't Hebrew,
Thank you,
but it
Mom.
was Aramaic, and it meant to rise. And I was like, whoa! Like,
Wait,
I
it meant to
tripped out.
what? To rise?
To rise.
What does that
to
mean?
rise. Like, I don't know. They were just showing that to me in the code, and I wrote it down. I was like up close, and I was trying to like get the.
What do you
so
mean?
then I put it into ChatGPT, and it said it's Aramaic, and it means to rise.
Interesting. Oh, so
Yeah.
you saw a whole word.
I said it was 3 letters, 3 Hebrew letters, and then or three Aramaic letters. And I initially thought it was Hebrew because I didn't know the difference. And so I typed it into ChatGPT, and it was like, this is Aramaic, and this is what it means. And I was like, that's exactly what I drew. That's
Yeah.
the only time that's happened, but I have seen Hebrew in there as well.
To rise. Okay.
Yeah.
So insurrection. No kidding.
Yeah, I don't know. I said I didn't know
Well,
to make of it. That's why I was asking.
Yeah, no, I'm kidding. By the way, Amalia, to your comment, Amalia is saying, I've had visions of Hebrew tattoos. I see faces in the clouds and Sanskrit. So again, my experience is that a lot of people are experiencing now what is called the awakening, right? And they gain this like extra abilities. I think Kirsten is one of them, being able to see all kinds of special things with the stars. And I can't say I've experienced it myself. Kirsten tried to make me see it for 2 hours. I couldn't. I do see the stars sometimes move a little bit, but it's clear to me that that's an effect of the brain predicting the next movement of the star. It's definitely nothing special. But I do know, and I've heard this from multiple people that are not related to each other, and they had no way of coordinating this. Talk specifically about that the stars doing like this special thing. They come to you, they go away, they go down. Kirsten
And
was
Kelsey,
talking
Kelsey
to them.
saw it too.
Yeah,
Remember?
yeah.
Kelsey saw it when we were doing it. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I didn't mean to like imply that I don't believe it. I'm saying that I have to be honest, I couldn't see it, but I know from multiple individuals that this is happening, and Kirsten managed to like move. You talk to it with the laser, right? You shine the laser into the sky, and then aside from
Yeah,
that
we
one
were
plane.
doing Morse code. Kelsey and I were doing Morse code into the different stars and stuff and into the sky, saying "I love you" in Morse code, like and love and different words like that. And we both had success. Like we saw like flashes coming back, and we were both really tripped out because that was the first time that's happened. I
Yeah.
mean, I've seen crazy things happen with Seven calling orbs in and things like that, but on my own, I'd never done anything like that before.
Yeah. And to you comment, Amalia. Well, some of them are satellites. So like some satellites will pass the sky very quickly, and that's what it would look like. Now you also have what is it called? Starlink, Elon Starlink. So you have like a row of these little dots moving around like ducklings. So you will have that too. But I am convinced that what Kirsten is talking about is different, and I know that what you saw is probably different. I just have to keep reporting honestly. So.
Yeah, and I also have a satellite tracker, so I always make sure to look at what satellites are in the area. So I make sure that I'm not seeing something that's a satellite.
Yep, and I think that's the one thing that I always emphasize that is different and unique about the laser, which is that it doesn't matter who you are or what level of awakening you are. If you do these two things, laser, molecule, you'll see it. So it's much more democratic. Now, probably there's a reason why certain people already see it, so other people don't see it. Maybe they're at a level of, like awakening a certain level of awareness that I might not be at yet. But I look at the world from a particular perspective, and I think there's a reason for that. Either I'll have my time, or I'm meant to do something else. We'll see. We'll find out.
How many people have not seen it, Danny?
What?
The code.
three that I know of that I have a really hard time, and they just can't see it no matter what.
Because everybody I've showed it to has been able to see it.
Yeah, no, I think it's like, I don't know if you were here for that chat, but when I was in the last meditation retreat, I was thinking about exactly that. Like, why do some people take them a while, and why Cal here with us on the chat, he also had some hard time in the beginning, and then he all of a sudden, business, we'll see you in a moment, and all of a sudden he saw it without any trouble. And then I was thinking about that, and I turned around and I saw a paper tissue box, and the name of the company was Choice. So like right in that moment, it's almost like they said it's Choice.
Wow.
They choose to not see it, and I was like,
Yep.
oh, this is interesting. And it was actually, one of them was excruciating, because one of the first ones, the big kind of like moments for me was that I met this incredibly brilliant physicist, and actually also in another meditation retreat, and he made the effort. I told him, he came all the way from the Bay Area. He stayed over. We did the thing for hours, and I'm like, dude, how do you not see it? He's like, I don't know what to tell. I don't see anything. I'm like, oh my God, like how? It drove me crazy. I was like, how's that possible? And I still don't know what causes it, but like eventually, well, maybe that's exactly what it is. Maybe it's choice. Maybe there's a part of people just chooses not to partake for the time being.
I also think it might have something to do with like relaxing into it, because a lot of people get very, I got to see this, and that will cause you to not see it.
Yeah,
I remember
yeah.
that happened with me in the beginning.
Yeah, and this is why I would say, and you eventually used K, but I think, right? But I think that ultimately you can
Yep.
also use, if you do, I actually think if you do mushrooms first and let all that angst out of your system, when you do it already after, it makes it a lot easier. Oh, wow, there's a bunch of new comments on YouTube. I apologize. I had to refresh here to see it. Whoa. This is like well, first of all, thank you for engaging. This is amazing. I just didn't see this. Okay, let me see. Okay, let's go down. Okay. Okay, San Mateo. Yeah, in San Mateo, exactly. I have to run, but I will see you all in the next one. Okay, Anna, I guess that was a while ago. See you, have a good night. That was like an hour ago. Dude, wow. It's time to pay your taxes. We need some battle in here. Time for some negative energy transmutation to give off the simulator layer. If it was not for your interview with Charles Eisenstein, I probably would not be on this talk here today. All right. Debates, let's go. Just Julian Palmer uses Soplar and torping sounds for protecting himself. Interesting. Mr. Z on YouTube is saying Julian Palmer uses Soplar and torping sound for protecting himself. I don't know what that means, but it sounds fascinating. Let me save that. Without the laser, on higher doses, you are able to see through your eyelids and thin paper. Do think this is relevant to seeing the code? Something to try. Knowledge and love. The dark side down. Okay, wrote that. As your spiritual frequency rises, your ego becomes weaker and weaker. Therefore, ascension can lead to less misery, I think. Incompleteness theorem as true unfinishable nature of things. That topic. Exactly. That feels exciting. Either infinity or paradox, or both. Non-duality refers to not two and not one. I need to think about that one. All is mind. I would agree with that. That's idealism, and I would agree with that. Perfect finished already, or unfinishable, both combined in parts, or simple both. Or it is something unconceptualizable, spreading concepts, making meaning as a whole party, always hidden, as a necessity. The more you embrace them, the bigger the portal opens. Thank you, Mission Aha. I would agree with that. Do not think this way. Just root yourself to what is in front of you and increase the playing field by reaching up to a degree that is optimal. Aubrey Marcus is boycotting the Burning Man this year. I can understand why. All right. Andy Warhol used to carry around a phone to clubs, calling it the God phone art. At least this behavior outlined in the previous comments will guard you if the path always continues no matter the direction. Never too far. Okay, we're almost at the end. Synchronicity is a good example of how we can influence the construct to work in our favor. I think it's where the construct surprises you, honestly. Jesus said, I am maxed out. That's a great beginning of a comment. Flexed a bit and said, not only can I walk on water, but that water has your reflection. Whoa. That's all, folks. Going spectator mode. Thank you, Danny. I didn't see these comments before. I apologize. This was like from... Well, this is relatively recent. Why is there no studies being done on ingesting the molecule in non-breakthrough amounts? I feel like there is so much to learn from this. Couldn't agree more, but I'm sure it's coming.
There are some studies being done with it, especially on depression and things, and those studies had a lot of success just from one dose of the molecule with treatment-resistant depression. And there's also ones that they're working on with Parkinson's. I actually had a client recently who had Parkinson's stop shaking for 16 minutes the first time we used it. Then afterwards, up to 20 minutes. So it feels like it's repairing stuff. So there are many studies being done with this in low doses. Yeah.
Do you know where?
I'll send you the studies that have been done when we get off, and then I'll send you the other ones that are being that are like in recruiting right now.
That's amazing. Yeah. By the way, they also developed this new technology also that sends particular signals to the brain with this thing, and it stops Parkinson's the same way. It's amazing. But it's crazy if they can do it with a molecule. It's amazing. Mission Aha is asking, can we talk about sex magic while on DMT? Two words that you probably did not send on this chat, but it's okay. It wouldn't have the same impact, so we're okay.
Yeah, we call it the molecule on here, so
yeah. No, I know, but if I would read, can we talk about sex magic while on the molecule? It's kind of like doesn't have the same oomph. I don't know. I mean, it's I think on mushrooms it's fun, on acid it's fun, weed it's fun. No, I think on YouTube you can say, but with the molecule, you're just going at it, and she has the head of a praying mantis. That's sex magic for you. Yeah, I know. No, it is true that like I said, one of the times on a console, it basically taught me how to do the play the perfect role as the male in the equation, and it's quite mind-boggling. Interesting. Code of numbers and letters. If so, I take photos, and they are in. Take photos, and they are in my photographs. I'm not sure what you mean by that. Can you clarify, please?
I think she means she's taken photos of the code, and then she's got them in her photographs. And I think she's saying she can still see the code without the molecule, which is usually what happens to me too after you've already done it.
I experienced this. So if you mean that, I experienced this to a degree, but I always say because it doesn't look as coherent, I always think, well, is my brain filling it in because it knows it's there now? It's also possible.
I've wondered that too.
Yeah. Omiuk. I don't need a substance to see the code, but would like to be in the presence of someone on the dose. Yeah, that would be interesting. Just so you know, for my... there we go. They definitely restricted us. 2 restrictions for the 2 words. Let's see. It's crazy that they don't tell... 7:35. I'm actually going to take a snapshot of this. 7:35, which was exactly... it's just when it's now. Something uncomfortable has been restricted. Yeah. It's crazy that they don't tell you what it is.
The restriction is just restricting it to 18 and older, though.
Okay, got it. Well, now it's green again, but let's see. No, there's 2 restrictions. Okay, we're still on green. But still, I mean, wait.
I know, it's ridiculous.
I thought I put a filter that nobody under 18 is allowed, if I'm not mistaken. We'll find out. Is there even a possibility here on TikTok?
Yeah, it's a possibility before you go on, but I've gotten restrictions before too, and it's usually they'll say like we've restricted this to adult content only, even though I've ticked that box too. So I don't know. It's kind of very weird. Yeah.
So maybe it still sends it. Weird. Okay. All right. Yeah. Well, sorry. I still maintain this it was worth reading the comment. Thank you, Mission High. It was funny. Just so you know, Amiok, from my experience with talking to people who, like I would say, it's the most common email I get, people saying, I see the code without the laser. When I investigate deeper, because I also see code without the laser with the molecule, it seems to be a slightly different code. So there's like different layers of it. And this one is a little different in that it's more malleable. And if your experience is different, feel free to correct me. But it's more malleable. You can actually change it with your attention. It's kind of subsumed in surfaces. It's a little larger. What you see in the laser, you can't really do anything with. Like, it's just what it is. It's like objective. It's just there. It's not kind of like running in some background in between layers. It's just like very concrete and feels very different than the thing. But maybe your experience is different. I'm not sure. Go ahead, Kim.
Yeah, you know that my daughter, like she saw the exact same code. She drew it out. I even sent it to you, like the same code that we see.
Interesting.
Obviously without the molecules. So,
But on the laser.
yeah, just with the laser, obviously.
so
but
you-
yeah, she just walked by and saw and like wrote down like, okay, what are you seeing? I didn't even just ask her like, any questions, or I didn't preface her with anything. I'm like, what are you seeing? And she was like, okay, there's like characters in here, and she drew it out. I think I even sent the screenshot to you of what she drew.
Yeah. So actually, okay, and also I just realized as you were talking that I actually read your comment wrongly. I thought you said you don't need the laser. You said you don't need the molecule, so it stands.
For
Okay.
her, yes.
No, not for your daughter. I'm talking about Omiuk that made the comment. He also said I don't need
Oh,
substance.
gotcha.
Yeah. So I did meet a few women. Are you a woman? Because I only met women that can do that. If you're a man, that's new, and that will be very valuable and interesting. To see
Oh
if
wow, that's an interesting data point.
yeah, see if jumped. Also, art. Tap the screen. Oh yeah, if you guys can give it some more likes, that would be awesome. Thank you for that suggestion. I am older. Interesting. I'm not. Well, maybe there is something to do with it. TikTok after dark. In the top left, stars with God. Do you have drawing representation of what you see in the drawing? In the yes, I do. We putting it in the documentary, but if you want an image of it before, feel free to email me, Amalia, lasersimulationx@gmail.com. Once again, it's lasersimulationx@gmail.com, and I'll email you the image so you can see. Male. That is interesting. So yeah, I do have some people that are seeing it after they saw it in the with the molecule. But if you're seeing it with the laser or without the laser, and you're talking about the same thing without the molecule, that would be very interesting. So also please email me.
What did it look like, Amik? I would love to
Oh, yeah,
know.
yeah.
Like, what did you see?
Oh yeah, please send me yours as well, Amalia. So lasersimulationx@gmail.com. DEV, and while Amika potentially will answer, we have DEV reality, Vine reality. There should be more studies done. Okay, we read that. How old is your daughter? Is being asked on YouTube.
She's 8 years old.
8. And yeah, they're definitely less programmed. That's for sure. Have you tried looking at via different ROA like the I don't know if I can say that word, but the mixture of the molecule that kind of contains MAOIs.
Oh, CHANG.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you
Yeah,
can see.
I can't see it on that.
You can't. I haven't tried. I would assume you should. Kirsten's saying no. I know for a fact that you can see it on mushrooms. I know for a fact you can see it on Aya. This was tested. Nobody tested it on acid so far. So if somebody feels cold, please let us know. I see people words, numbers, and a ghost-like textures. Interesting. Yeah, if you don't mind really actually emailing me with the details, that would be super valuable. lasersimulationx@gmail.com. How to understand the code, though? We have no Rosetta Stone, or do you? No, but I don't think that understanding the code at the moment, at least in this moment of the development of the research, is the important thing. I think seeing regularities of the behavior of the code in relationship to what's happening in its environment, if we can create any changes to either behavior or content by creating physical perturbations around it, or any other kinds of perturbations, I think that's what, at the moment, that's the only thing we can do. Eventually, in order to understand the specificities or any structures or any regularities in the code, you will need something like an advanced version of Neuralink that can directly record from your cortex. So like it can record your experience directly from your eyes and then send it to like a chat GPT thing to analyze it. I don't think a human can do this. I see people words, numbers, and horse-like creatures. Horse-like creatures? Now
Interesting.
that's new.
Yeah, and I don't think the point of it either is to decipher it because it's so much, like it's just very difficult to decipher. I think the point is it opens up something in you that allows you to kind of elevate your thinking. And I think it's part of the whole ascension thing. Honestly, I think that it's helping people to get to a higher level of frequency, just seeing it and experiencing it.
I agree with that. And he's saying, but it's cartoon. But if I focus on it, it's first starts black and white. Thank you, Jose. By the way, if you would like to come on and chat, you're here sometimes. I would love to bring you on. Pegasus, dragons, that's amazing. Jose saying, did your foundational thoughts come from technical research or meditation or substance or others? For the experiment, in the beginning, I think the molecule is key, but the laser is also. So you need to be able to hold a certain middle ground state in which you're not fully sucked into hyperspace and you still can see the content in the room, and then project the diffracted laser and you'll see the code. For me personally, it's a long story. It combines all of the above. The way that I came to the idea of the laser was much more from like a technical standpoint, but at the same time it was guided by intuition and a lot of kind of like very loose end way of thinking, like kind of like connecting dots that on the surface should not necessarily be connected, to your question, Jose. But all of this will be told in the documentary, which hopefully will be coming out in the next few months. I'll be releasing trailers about it soon, so you guys will be able to see some of it. Thank you for the question. The highest vibration, and by the way, again, anybody who has a more specific question and feels like maybe I haven't covered it enough, feel free to email me lasersimulationx@gmail.com. Once again, it's lasersimulationx@gmail.com. The highest vibrational frequency of source love consciousness. Yes. I don't know what to say to that. Yes. There's a laser light that comes out of my sight. Are you Cyclops? That is okay. That is crazy. Okay. Oh, and you said you're older. Cyclops should be older at this point. It's been around for a while. No, I'm just messing with you. But what do you mean? Are you playing? Is that what's going on? It can take me up to 70 minutes to get to Delta, Lineages and Theta. Well, you're lucky. There's it's quite an ability to be able to do these things, and not everybody are very good at that. By the way, even if they practice, apparently they did the study. One of the most extensive and robust studies ever done on meditation in general was by Ricky Davidson, and there's over 500 publications over a stretch of 35 or almost 40 years, all studied in a lab, including functional MRI, and what he discovered was interesting is that sometimes you would have, because he studied the ability to meditate versus the actual benefits and all of that stuff. And he discovered there's tremendous benefits. And I know that maybe to people who meditate or come from the spiritual worldview, it's a duh moment, right? I think we kind of know. But science likes to really know. So you need to actually test for it. And what he discovered is interesting because, first of all, he discovered that, yes, there's absolutely crazy benefits, including physical benefits. He discovered that even for men over 50 who are longtime meditators, they can exhibit neural connectivity regeneration, which is unseen of prior in people over 50. And he discovered that some very long-term meditators, like people that have been doing it for 30, 40 years, are awful at meditation. He discovered that they really suck at it. So there's also a lot of space for delusion there in that space, because he could, plug them into a functional MRI and see, or EEG in that case, and see if they actually can do the thing that he identified as the signature of a meditative state. and he
I
discovered.
have the flow time device, and the molecule does help you get into theta quicker. It's very interesting. Yeah.
There you go.
Not delta, but into theta. And they also did studies with Chris Bledsoe. I don't know if you know his story. He wrote UFO of God. He can call in orbs at will. And they hooked him up to an EEG scanner at the Monroe Institute, and they found that he went into like the deepest levels of delta when he was calling them in. And it was almost like he could drop into it like instantaneously.
So that's crazy.
Yeah.
So what did you say you used to help you? What is it?
It's called the Flow Time device.
Flow Time.
There's one called the Muse, and it tracks in real time where your brainwave states are.
Oh, it's a feedback thing, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I've heard of these. That's interesting. And you can get one for relatively cheap.
Yeah, I think it's $225 on Amazon. And it's worth it. It's very interesting to see, what's going on, because I started doing experiments with saying, okay, meditating without the molecule and then meditating with it, and it's definitely a very big difference.
Interesting. Also, I realize when I'm impressed, I make a grumpy cat face. I can make it. Talk to guides, pleaded with them. Tell me what it means. They only tell me it's inspiration. That's exactly right. That's my experience as well, where they can't really tell you anything. They can't give you information. You have to kind of understand it for yourself. They can inspire you to understand by showing you all kinds of pretty things, or maybe giving you experiences. So that tracks my experience as well. Thank you for sharing. It's a frequency, and birds are attracted and fly in front of me, driving bat circle and try and eat it. That sounds like your life is super exciting. The Pleiadians, I stop aging, actually reverse age. I am 5,000 years old. Is that the next text? Yes, this is possible to my knowledge as well. Not to mine, but you would be very interesting to science, and especially to Brian, what's his name? The guy who's the Don't Die Project now.
Yeah, I mean, not to a huge degree, but if you actually sit in the mirror and work with a molecule and start saying like, time is an illusion, and you start kind of reversing yourself, like going back like 10 years, you'll start to see yourself get younger. And the more you can allow yourself to believe it, I've actually seen, like, people have looked at me, they're like, wow, why do you look younger? Like, and I'm like,
Interesting.
Yeah. So,
okay, well, this would be something to actually put a longitudinal study on, because that would be amazing if this is true.
How would I do that? Just document it?
Well, you can document it, and it would have to be pretty rigorous. So you would have to, focus on particular elements of your skin and vitality every day. You would probably have to do some concrete measurements of actually taking your own blood test, either in a lab or to do it yourself somehow. But ultimately, I think let me think about it. Like, there's probably some labs that's studying things of this nature, and if you can inject yourself into one of these studies, that's the easiest way. So they're going to do everything. But longitudinal studies means literally over 10, 20, 30 years. So they basically
that's interesting. I would
track.
love to do something like that,
Yeah,
because I've actually, like I said, I've seen it happen, not to a huge degree where it's like unreal, but definitely so much so that people have noticed it, and I'm like, oh wow, because I was actually working on it, right, and I didn't tell them about it.
Interesting. Okay, yeah, definitely something to actually pick, because I know that the claims are there. I know that what's his name, Dr. Joe Dispenza, right? A lot of the claims are around that kind of stuff. But as far as I know, there's not actual study of it proper, but maybe it's just too early to say. It would be, again, the reason I'm mentioning
there has been some studies of people who live to be 100 years old, centenarians, and their commonalities, and what they talk about is never, like they say, forget your age, like don't associate with your age, and that's the biggest thing that helps them. And also, like, not doing early bird specials and things like that, because then you're buying into that program, right?
Interesting. I also, that makes perfect sense to me, like mindset. There's also this famous documentary, right, with the blue zones, and what he essentially discovered is that the one common denominator to all of these blue zones, which is where people usually live till over 100 on a regular basis, is the sense of community that stays in that place for much longer than in other places. So, like, there's some places in Japan, there's actually one in Costa Rica, there's actually one in California right here, not that far away. It's a tiny region. Right here.
It?
We can look it up. I don't remember right now, but it's not far.
Melinda.
Where is it?
think it's in Loma Linda.
Yeah, very close, like either there or right next to it, which is like a tiny little. And in all cases, the common denominator is community. So like the sense of community that stays with people till later ages, and that's what seems to extend the age a lot more than anything else.
It was interesting also, a lot of people, like when they interviewed them, they smoked and some of them even drank. And they said they didn't have a program where they thought that like smoking was going to kill them. And they did it in like a ritualistic sense, like it was a ritual for them. And so that just didn't affect them. So I believe there's a huge component to us buying into these programs of, oh, I'm going to kill myself. Then you're going to, kill myself by smoking, right? So then all of a sudden, then that your body buys into that, and then that becomes a program that you write for yourself.
Yeah. Okay. And by the way, this is also why I mentioned Brian Johnson, and I see Danny mentioned it on YouTube as well. I don't know if you guys are familiar, but he's a millionaire that made his money from tech, and then he invested a bunch of money into making himself into a guinea pig, and they figured working with like a bunch of doctors and figured out all the perfect optimal ways to basically keep your aging like the most at minimum. And now he has a new campaign in which he kind of actually joins kind of like the Ray Kurzweil prediction of it's called Don't Die. So if you look it up, you can find it. Brian Johnson, and the whole campaign is basically to encourage people to maintain their perfect health in the methods that they found. And as far as I know, a lot of this, they made all of the information open source. They now made like a bunch of products that you can buy, but the information of how to do it is open source. You can just do it yourself. And it includes like the sleep regimen, the exercise regimen, the exact intake, caloric intake, and actual intake of like vitamins and all that stuff, depending on your exact body type and all that stuff. So basically they brought science all the way to the T, and the reason it's called what it's called, I don't want to say the word DIE anymore because I feel like that might also flag it, but Don't DIE, that's the name of the project. And they essentially, just like Ray Kurzweil predicted, they say you don't have to DIE ever. And the point is that we are about to get there to a point where we can actually stop it and fully reverse it from a scientific standpoint. I'm not talking about like spiritually right now. And if you keep yourself healthy enough for about the next 5-6 years, there's no reason for you to need to DIE ever.
Have you heard of the studies done with NAD that it also reverses aging? It has to be IV NAD.
Right. So that's part of it, but it won't reverse it. So like it's you're talking about what's his face? Help me out, Cal. You're so good with names.
Sinclair.
Yeah, thank
David
you.
Sinclair.
Wow, dude,
Yes.
you're amazing. Yeah,
Yes.
Sinclair's study. But it's part of
But
it.
it does seem to reverse Alzheimer's if it's caught early enough.
Yeah, it does exhibit some incredible things. But I do think that ultimately, and again, I don't even think that these things are mutually exclusive. I think that the whole like spiritual perception of it and what we would call the scientific perception of it, they're one and the same. It's just like in order to have a certain amount of self-care and attitude even towards this whole life, living longer kind of thing, you already need to be in a particular, I don't know, vibration or spiritual state. But I do like the fact that it at least gives an opportunity to even people who are not necessarily spiritually minded to also extend their lives, just from the perspective of just like what do you control in terms of the physicality of the organism, which is fascinating. I mean, I would say it, and my fiance is not on board, but I want to live till at least 10,000 if I can. Actually, last night when I was just falling asleep, I had this thought of like what it would actually be like to live for another 100. Like I try to actually imagine it, right? I try to imagine every decade of my life, and then try to imagine what it would be like to be 120 and have the same health levels that I have now, and what it would mean, like if I was born in 1983, what it would be like to live through 2083, exactly 100 years, and then kind of recapitulate in my mind like all the stuff that happened in every decade and how each decade has its own signature and vibe, just like I'm sure in the 1900s and now in this century, and then move on to the next one and now live to 2183 and then go like, dude, things just repeat themselves and like and they keep going. And just I think I got to about 4,000 where I fell asleep, about something like that, where I was like trying to imagine all these like crazy scenarios in which things are so different now, but there's still these regularities that kind of happen every single decade and then every single century and then all of that stuff. So I would definitely want to live as long as I possibly can if I can, but I know that
I'm
not.
surprised you got that far. I can't even imagine, beyond 20 years with how fast things are happening.
Oh yeah, no, of course I'm like, I have no clue, right? But I just kind of let my imagination go. A guy named, so Danny was mentioning him. Let's see. Oh my God.
There's also monks supposedly that live, up in solitude that, of course, they don't publicize this, but that are also way older than they claim to be. And I fully believe that.
Maybe. You know me. I don't know until I know. I mean, copy him because again, just like come on, Richie Davidson, just like he discovered, some monks were convinced they're amazing, and they sucked at it. They were terrible meditators. In fact, he discovered there was one. That one was particularly painful, I'm sure. There was one guy who was like, I don't know, this was like 40 years or something. And he couldn't even bring himself to like a base state that people could do when they meditated for 5 years. So like the whole time, he just wasn't doing it properly.
It's like, you're doing it wrong, buddy.
It's so crazy. So it's an actual ability. And by the way, he measured it in a very brilliant way. Basically, he saw the ability of people to deactivate their default mode network. So essentially, he would show them, let's say, disturbing images, and he would know they're disturbing to them because he would prep them. He would like find out what is disturbing to each individual, and then they would show them like a series of random images, and then they would show them every once in a while. They would show them like a disturbing one, and then for people who are not meditators, what would happen is that you would see the visual cortex light up. So saw the picture, then whatever sequence is supposed to happen in the brain, memory lights up, a memory region, whatever. I don't know, all the stuff about neuroscience, but whatever sequence is supposed to happen, and then because it's disturbing, you go like a big lighting up in the amygdala emotions, and then it goes into this crazy cycle where it amplifies the emotion even more, because then you kind of like you think about it more, and then it bothers you even more, and then it just keeps like a feedback loop. It's just crazy, and the amount of cortisol produces are crazy, right? And then with really well seasoned meditators, all the first cycle would happen, so visual cortex, whatever emotional response, all of that stuff, and then it would just die out. So there would be no. Go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead. The technique that you taught me at the retreat with "There's no one here that all of this is happening to" has been so valuable for me. And
I'm glad to hear.
But I only reached the point one time where I really felt that like, oh God, like, I'm saying, it was like this just, whoa, it was this realization that just like, that was mind blowing. And I felt that's that kind of state of mind, that optimal state of mind to get to in meditation. It's non-existing.
Oh yeah, there's some pretty crazy states, and then actually the practice is to ignore these states. That's the real practice, to start ignoring them and not really care about what's happening. Let me see if I can get through some of these comments before we have to adjourn. Copy a measurement method, record just a body. I mean, copy him, as this is literally what he does 24/7. Poor guy had one of the worst possible genes. It is probably hell for him to show it off visually how young he has become. That is true. That's incredible. Altered carbon makes you think that you would become a greedy perfectionist living above clouds, spitting on broke mortals. Well, again, that's already kind of like, the post-apocalyptic vision. I don't see any reason for it to be available just for rich people. Maybe in the beginning, but don't forget that in the beginning, there's also where you have to work out all the kinks. So it also, all the mistakes happen. So probably actually the best trajectory is that it reaches the main market when everybody can afford it, and there's less mistakes, and nobody's growing a tail or two heads. Otherwise, you've never heard of it. Where the rich and general population's distance increase to uncomfortable levels. That is true. That is the biggest indicator of this, all the negative stuff that happens in society. It's not necessarily how much you have, is if you live right next to somebody who has a lot more than you. That's actually exactly true, Danny. I feel like most current series, I don't know why I said actually. Everything you say is usually very true. I feel like most current series that people become consumed with are like that. I would agree with that too, because it's action, it's drama, it's interesting. What is the name of the device that provides biofeedback for the state of mind? Flow, asking you.
Flow Time, or there's one called Muse. I haven't used the Muse because it didn't get as good reviews, and I used the Flow Time.
And there's one called Anal AD. No, I'm kidding. Talking guides. It's a frequency on. Okay, we read that. Let's go down. Will we be. Wait. Things that we are going to go through, but that's okay. I can't read that. Sorry. I'm very grateful listening to you all. Makes me excited to test my theories myself. I'm glad that you appreciate that. We'll live tonight. Will you? Oh, somebody's asking. Amicur is asking if you're going to be live tonight. Oh, you answered. Okay, you're on it. I can't meditate, but doing art, I flow. Yep, it's the same state of mind. I'm not 100% sure. Just so you know. There's actually a heavy study on this. I'm glad you caught my joke, DEV. the Divine Word. Nobody else did. In the same state of mind, I'm not sure it's the same one. It might be on the same spectrum, but I'm not sure it's the same. It is true that for flow, which is a technical term, you do need a reduction of the DMN, the fault mode network. But as far as research is concerned, I'm not 100% sure they're the same state. Meditative states, I think it's a larger spectrum of that thing.
The molecule also decreases the activity in the DMN.
Mm-hmm. I feel like improvising with music or art is similar to meditation. So same answer as I gave Omiyuk. Breathing also can do this. Same answer. Flow tank got me to that meditative state. I need to let the feeling go next time. Yeah, I would say, I think a meditative state, the term is too loose, to be honest. It basically, like any reduction in the perception of the self would create a various kinds of states. The meditative practice is designed not necessarily to reach these states, but just to observe the fact that all these states are there and then basically transcend these states as well. That's kind of like the ultimate goal. And in the process, you better your own ability to be a person alive. But the final goal is to actually ignore all of these states altogether. And in the state of flow, you have usually you engage with a task, which then collapses the distance between you and the task. And that's but the task is required. So if you can't do it without a task, that by definition it's a different kind of state of the brain.
You get triggered less by other people when you start doing this too. It's like it just goes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Flow tank got me that meditative state. I need to let feeling. Oh, we're at that. Failed hundreds of times before my first win spirit game. That ain't that a real story? Let me tell you. Okay. All right, guys. It's 8 o'clock. We went through 2.5 hours today. Tomorrow I'll try and start at 5. We'll see if I manage to do it, and then we'll go for 2.5 hours till about 7:30. Thank you everybody for joining. Kirsten, thank you so much for moderating. Cal.
Of course, thanks, Danny. Bye, guys.
Bye. You're the best, man. I'm glad you saw this thing, and I'll see everybody tomorrow. Much peace and love. See ya. See you, YouTube and Twitch and X. I'm not even sure anybody was here from X or Twitch, but if you were, I'm glad you were here. See you guys. Good night, and we'll see you tomorrow. Love and light. Oh, there we go. We had somebody on Twitch. How are you? Coma shoes. I like it. Were there many people on Twitch? I've never streamed on Twitch. I've never been on Twitch, so I'm surprised that anybody is there, but I appreciate that you're here. So thank you. I guess I'm gonna be able to look at the tail end, but Coma shoes, were there anybody else aside from you on Twitch? We'll find out tomorrow. Thank you guys. Appreciate you all. And I'll see everybody tomorrow. Peace and love.